All right. We are here. We're live. It's Thursday night, and it's probably the most anticipated show of 2016 for Television Radio. It is time for the Evel friggin' Knievel Wembley Tribute Show. That's right, and my name is Bay Ragney, and I could not do this show without this man, because this man is a badass, this man is a daredevil, and this man is a friggin' Pitbull. He is known as Mr. Henry Rife. What's going on, Henry?
Nothing, Bay. How you doing, buddy?
Nothing. Come on. We got so much going on tonight, brother.
Oh, I'm about ready to die of exhaustion getting us ready to go, but we're going to have a hell of a show tonight.
You're going to die of exhaustion, but you're not going to be able to go to sleep afterwards because you're going to be so pumped up.
Absolutely. Evel Knievel rules.
Absolutely. So everybody that's tuning in tonight that's new to Television Radio, usually we start our show off with a little bit of a preview of the show. So like today is the 41st anniversary of the Wembley Stadium jump of Evils. So we've come up with this idea of, let's talk Wembley, let's talk Evel. So we got some people in the world of Evel Knievel to join in the show. And actually, one of them people, he's all the way over across the pond in England, and he's known as Mr. Wembley, and his name is Bryan Richards, and he is the Evel Knievel superfan. And Henry and myself, we interviewed him the other day because of the time difference over in England. So we're going to play that interview around 8:30ish. Coming up later in the show, after that interview, we have the guy that was Evil's driver, and I guess a mechanic as well. Am I correct, Mr. Mike Draper?
He was kind of a jack of all trades. He was his buddy. He was his right-hand man, sometimes security guard. He did a little bit of everything.
Basically, whatever Evel needed, Mike did it.
Sometimes whipping boy, I think.
Oh, boy. Also, we got calling in after Mike is going to be, now this guy, actually, I just saw some pictures today from the Wembley Jump of Evel and this man together. This was Evel's mechanic over at Wembley Stadium, and actually, Evel blamed him for the crash. Am I correct on this, Henry?
That's the lore. I think we'll find out tonight. What was it, a couple of days ago, they had a big write-up comparing Evel Knievel with Trump, and they used the picture of Evel and John Hood. And we're going to be speaking to the man himself tonight, get the lowdown. This
awesome.
is kind of a treat because John doesn't do a lot of interviews.
Yeah. So this is going to be really good. We're going to get a first-hand account from John Hood. And then rounding out the show tonight, we got the man who, he's the man behind Evel Knievel now. He's the CEO of EK Enterprises. He's been behind a lot of the documentaries you've seen of Evel. He's also behind the museum that's opening up in Topeka, Kansas, later this year. He owns Big Red, the Big Red truck. He owns tons of Evel Knievel memorabilia. And I think, as Henry has said to me, he's probably in charge of like 90% of the Evel Knievel world.
That's absolutely right. He owns most of the bikes, most of the outfits, most of the helmets. You name it. If it's Evel Knievel and he owned it, Lathan's either got it or he's trying to get it. So he's even come up with his own Evel Ale beer that you can buy. So he's a jack of all trades when it comes to Evel Knievel.
Nice. So we got a world of Evel coming up. But before that, we normally each week we have in our show, we have our Hollywood reporter who will be calling in a couple minutes. And then we're going to talk some Hollywood news. And we have something that totally relates to Evel Knievel, Dancing with the Stars. So we're going to be talking about that. And then we're going to unveil all the Evel Knievel fun. But also, too, he's on the line. He came in a little late. Let's get my good friend, my normal co-host every week, who's along for the ride this week, and he's a daredevil himself, and his name is Mr. Nick Wolf. What's going on there, Nicky?
What's up, guys?
Hey, Nick, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
It was a big day tonight for Nick. His daughter was graduating 8th grade.
Yes. It's actually in about an hour. I'm actually in the parking lot of Burlington Coke Factory right now, but I figured I'd call in and, talk a little bit before I had to go.
Well, if I'm going to step on your toes, this is the night to do it, right?
Absolutely.
So, all right, what was that, Henry?
I got a confession to make. I dropped the ball on that, and I apologize, but these Evel Knievel guys have been blowing up my computer. What should I say? What should I bring up? Whatever the hell you want. Something good.
All right, well, it's time to kick off the Evel Knievel portion of the show. And I figured to do that, before we get into our interview we did with Bryan, I pulled a couple sound bites, and I figured we should play them to kick it off. Since we're talking the 41st anniversary of Wembley, let's listen to Mr. Very good friend of Evel Knievel, Mr. Gifford's call of the Wembley Stadium jump.
There he goes, and he will go. Oh, my God.
Now, the scary part is, you figure all that hype, promotion, back and forth, everything for 17 seconds.
That's a rough way to make a living, I can promise you.
And to prove that it's rough, I also pulled, which we talked about with Bryan, and I think is truly the defining moment of the Wembley jump, is Evel's speech afterwards.
I want to stand up and walk up. Help me out. Okay, we're going to help him out. Easy, on my shoulder. Right, off the left. Off the left. Off the left.
I'm lucky that I wasn't killed. I was unconscious and up and in shock.
Ladies and gentlemen of this wonderful country, I've got to tell you that you are the last people in the world who will ever see me jump, because I will never, ever, ever jump again. I am through.
Wow.
And he lied.
He lied. What I would love to know, when that happened, Henry, as you were, because I'm sure you were watching it as well. What was what were you thinking as a child, and hearing him say he would never jump again?
Well, for those that wasn't around back then, we only had 3 channels. We had no internet. We had no cell phones. So Wild World of Sports was, and especially for me, was because I was such an Evel Knievel nut. Like a month ahead of time, there was this build-up, and I drove my mom and dad crazy every day. 15 more days, 7 more days, and they had to be about ready to kick my butt. But when it got down to time, I believe, if I remember correctly, Wild World of Sports showed this on a delay, so it was actually a week after it happened, and
okay.
So I knew he crashed, but I've never seen him crash in real time where he's actually hurt and in the hospital, and we really wasn't getting a lot of information from across the sea there. So I sit there and watch that, and had my Evel Knievel action figure. It wasn't a damn doll, it was an action figure. I had it in my hand and watched the show, and there he went. off the ramp, good jump. The last part of it, he just not enough speed, and fell off and got some messed up, and then he got up and said he wasn't going to ever jump again. And I don't mind telling you, as a 7-year-old, watching the third most influential person in my life, my mom and dad's 1 and 2, but he's like family to me. And when that happened, that's the first time I ever seen that. It broke my heart. I got really, really upset, and I cried over it. And I remember that like it was yesterday. My mom took me to Dairy Queen and got me an ice cream and sit there and ate ice cream with tears running down my cheeks. So, the little side note to that, later on as I grew up, I loved the Wembley leather so much that I had to have a set in my Daredevil career, and something kind of morbidly fascinating for me was you watch him get his ass kicked like that. Gravity just did a number on him, right? And I always wondered if I was man enough to be able to take a beating like that. And I took a couple of them, and I'll tell you what, people just don't give him credit enough for, as ballsy as he was and the greatest entertainer, because football player gets $14 million a year and can't play because he's got a turf toe or something, whatever. That guy was a stud.
Absolutely. And you made me feel better that I wasn't the only kid crying when Evel announced he was retiring.
Oh, dude, we're talking about it right now. I get a little misty-eyed about it because I remember it so well. I mean, it was absolutely that was a traumatic thing for me. I mean, in one of the movies, I think it was a George Hamilton movie, he talked about, George Hamilton as Evel, talked about watching Joey Chitwood and somebody get hurt, and they said everybody laughed. But him, he found it almost a religious experience. And that was the same thing as me, man. It tore me up.
Yeah. I hear you. I totally hear you. So
wasn't enough ice cream.
Let's get in our interview with Bryan. He's known as Mr. Wembley. He's over in England, and like I said earlier in the show, Henry and myself, we taped this the other day. We had a great talk. The interview was actually an hour long, and I had to edit it down. And I edited it down to mostly just a lot of the Wembley talk. So here it is. Let's share, because he is truly a fountain of knowledge of Evel, Wembley Stadium especially. So here he is, Mr. Wembley himself.
Think we're doing the name of Evel.
Oh, my God, tell me about it. Takes over your whole life.
Exactly, I can tell you. Okay, let's get on with this.
It's funny, Bryan, I was saying to Henry, I said, you sent me over your Evel Knievel resume, and it's 6 pages long. And I'm like, holy shit.
Well, that was the brief version.
So now, you're over in the UK, like we said, and the first time you saw Evel was on television, am I correct, when he was promoting the Wembley Jump?
That's correct, yeah. We were only, I suppose, about 7 years old at the time over here. And, I mean, we would ride our bikes around and do jumps, and everyone would say, hey, who do you think you are, Evel Knievel? But we didn't have a clue what he looked like. I mean, we'd never seen him, and we didn't get much TV over here then. We only had, 3 channels growing up when I was a kid. And finally, he came on TV, and we saw him.
So you never really knew nothing about him until that time you saw him on TV then?
That's it. We'd heard the name, and we knew that he did jumps in America, and he jumped the canyon in a rocket. But as far as the UK press went, there wasn't much exposure over here. But I suppose the biggest thing was the toys. The toys were more popular, and that's kind of how we knew him.
So once all this started, the hype, you guys knew he was coming to England. exactly how wild did your imagination get about what he was going to be like?
Well, it was quite the thing, Henry. I mean, you can imagine that British people are quite reserved, quite stuffy, and they don't really go in for the big showmanship kind of thing. And to have somebody come over here who was living that kind of life at the time, it was a real eye opener for a lot of people in this country, and a real pleasant sort of change to see someone who was like a living hero, like a superhero kind of character. So it's an exciting time for a kid.
And how many times did you run through your head what you were going to see? Because I know for me, when I was a kid, the myth of Evel Knievel was a lot bigger in my head than the actual person. It was bigger than life, and the stuff I didn't know about him, I filled in the blanks with imagination, and that's really what made me love him so much.
I think for us, we didn't really have any kind of base point. It was, this guy's going to come and fly a motorbike through the air. It was, as a small kid, it doesn't get any better than that. And we really didn't have anything else to compare it to. There was a guy over here called Eddie Kidd, who was kind of doing the copycat thing for what Evel did at the time. But, he was nowhere near that kind of status at the time.
Now, something I had found out as reading through your bio, actually, and I didn't realize was before he started doing all that press once he got over there was only 10,000 tickets sold for Wembley?
Yeah, if that. I mean, they had a promotion company working for them, Hemdale, and Hemdale were basically a bunch of British businessmen that included some of the people that worked on the Snake River team. Basically, they were newsmen and that kind of stuff, and it was their connection that got Evel to come over to London anyway. So when they did come over, the fame that Evel had in this country wasn't as big as it was obviously after the Wembley Jump, and so the pre-sales were minimal. It was basically people that the small amount of people that did know of him, I guess. And then when Evel did come into the country, realised he was really short-sold on the tickets, he hit the TV shows. And there was one programme in particular, it was called Blue Peter. And this was the prime time kids show over here. And it was on twice a week. And he promised
I've been there.
Yeah, he promised to turn up on this show. And it was the Thursday, and he never turned up. He went and played golf down at Wentworth, which is like the big golf club in England. And so all these kids had been waiting for Evel Knievel to come on the TV, and he didn't show. So there was a lot of backstage sort of moaning and groaning, and Evel agreed to go on to the show the following week on the Tuesday, I think it was. And he finally came on, but they were really pissed at him for not turning up the week before. They'd had to do a public apology on the show to all the thousands and millions of kids up and down the country that, Mr. Knievel couldn't turn up, and they were trying to make up some bullshit excuses for why he didn't show up, but he was actually playing golf.
And he probably doubled the audience, didn't he?
A lot more than that. So, I think it was quite a big audience for the show at the time, but it didn't go without a lot of anger at the BBC, because there was one of the presenters, Peter Purvis, he was called, and he was famous for sort of doing another motocross show in the UK. So he was kind of into his bikes and all this kind of thing. So he was talking to Evel and saying, you've really let the kids down and all this, and Evel got really annoyed with him and started to wave his cane around under this guy's nose and said, "You see the diamonds on this cane? I could buy this damn studio with these diamonds." And but they carried on as professionals and went live on air, and it all looked good at the end of the day.
Now, I mean, all this happened when you said you were 7 years old, this whole Wembley Jump.
That's correct.
Now, you didn't know, all the happenings then, being a 7-year-old kid. So, I mean, you still, I'm sure, like Henry was saying and myself, at that time we were young kids, and we looked to Evel as being like a human. He was a superhero to us. He really was. And later on in life, when you got older and you really started being able to research them and things like that, especially thanks to the internet. What were your feelings then when you started to find out these stories about how Evil acted, like with that story you just said? Did your opinion change of them at all, or did it just like kind of add to the whole superhero?
I don't think they changed, babe, because I think I changed. You know, as I grew up, I became a bit tougher and a bit meaner in my old age, and you know, life kind of dawns on you, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? You've got to be a lot tougher as you get older. And I think as I found out all the things that Evil had done that perhaps weren't so nice and weren't so kind and gentle, I could probably sympathise with him and you know, agree with the way that he lived his life. If you know, he was the best person in his position to choose what to do with it. So yeah, I don't think I'd lost any affection for the guy or any respect. I mean, if anything, I was probably looked up to him a bit more for being so tough.
Nice.
I agree 1,000%.
Yeah.
He was.
It added. Go ahead, Henry.
He was. Sorry, I didn't mean to walk on you. He, you know, Evil was. You know, in a young kid's mind, you see the leathers and you see the dramatic feats he does, and you know, people say, "Oh, that'll wear off." And I think I probably speak for all three of us. The older I got, the tougher I got, the more in the stunts I got. He didn't fade away being a superhero; became a bigger superhero. I mean, the guy had the balls of an elephant. And, you know, I mean, look, there's plenty of great jumpers out there, but there's only one Evel Knievel. He was the bravest of all of us, by far.
Absolutely.
And you know, he might not have had the talent that his son did or, you know, some other people. And, you know, that's all fine and dandy, but he's the reason we're all wearing red, white, and blue and go charging towards ramps and having tattoos of his helmet on our body and stuff like that. So I think that says a lot for the man.
Yeah, I can't imagine it would have been an easy ride for him. You know, he set his own stall out, didn't he? And he was the one that led the way. He had to, you know, drive his own trucks at times, put up his own ramps. It wasn't easy. I mean, he was a self-made man, and he climbed from being, you know, pretty damn poor to being one of the richest men in the country.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm certainly not one of the richest men in the world, but, you know, since I decided to get in the Daredevil business, I went through a lot of that myself, and I can tell you, that was, you know, moving your ramps around. You know, people only see the jump; they never seen the behind-the-scenes stuff. You know, the guy played hard, and he worked hard, and you know, I mean, he was a brilliant salesman. So, you know, you and I both know that there's a lot of people out there that just want, and you know, there's only so much of that you're willing to give until you start getting grumpy. So I kind of cut him some slack on that too.
Good point.
Now, also too, like the Wembley Jump was towards the end of Evil's career, and you know there was only so much you could do as a 7-year-old, 8-year-old kid with an obsession of Evel Knievel. But bring us to like the modern time, and even like you said in your little resume you gave me, with the internet, it kind of rekindled your whole love of Evel Knievel.
Oh, it brought it all back. I mean, not that I'd sort of lost any sort of fondness for Evel, but, you know, you didn't sort of see things in the shops. There was nothing to buy. There was nothing in the news, nothing in the press. And then suddenly this internet thing's getting bigger and bigger, and suddenly there's a marketplace for toys on there, and you could start picking up all the old merchandise that was around in the 70s, and you could start emailing and talking with people all around the world about Evel. Yeah, it rekindled it in a massive way for me. And I think in the early days of the Facebook social media scene and eBay, you know, I was quite curious, and there was a lot of unanswered questions from my childhood. You know, what else could I learn? You know, and I suddenly found all these other photographs and stories about Evel and things to collect. You know, things to buy to put on a mantelpiece, a nice ornament or something, and it kind of grew exponentially, really, for me. I spent a lot of my time buying sort of toys and collectibles, a lot of my time going on sort of chat rooms and talking with other Evil fans. And it just went on and on and on relentlessly, and until I had this whole room full of stuff with Evil's name on it or his face. And then there were sort of websites and things that I was partaking in, but I was getting kind of annoyed with them because they weren't really the easiest way to talk to people like we were used to on Facebook. So I ended up setting up a few pages on Facebook in different areas, one for collecting the Knievel merchandise and another one for specifically Evil's Wembley Jump. And both of those pages have just been growing and growing, and they have well over 1,000 people following them and discussing all kinds of Wembley memories or toys that they used to collect, and they're still growing now. I mean, every day I get notifications on my phone that more people are joining or want to become a member of this page and that page. So it takes up quite a bit of my time each day, actually. Evel Knievel, every day of my life now.
Now, so why don't you plug your page and tell everybody where they can see it?
Well, there's if you go to Facebook and type in Evel Knievel Wembley, you'll find a really good fun page there. It's all about the jump he did in London, but not specifically. I mean, we talk about other things there as well, and it's kind of fun. We do a prize draw every month. If you fancy winning something to do with Evel, a poster or T-shirt or something like that, we get a prize draw, and that's kind of fun too. My son joins in. He's 6 years old. He gets dressed up and he pulls the winning number out of the lottery machine. And if you're the lucky winner, you get a nice free prize. The other page I run it's called Knievel Collector. So if you go onto that one on Facebook, and then you'll find many hundreds, I mean more than 1,000, I think there's about 1,400 people on there now that are into collecting Evel Knievel merchandise of one type or other. And there's lots of things there. There's a section on there where you can buy and sell and trade what you've got, or just ask questions about things, Good pages, both of them. Really interesting.
Now, you spent a lot of money on Evel Knievel merchandise.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think? What do you think is your most prized possession in your personal collection?
I've got a few, but the standout piece has to be the helmet that he wore at Wembley and scuffed up pretty bad. So that was a major financial investment. I mean, that was on top of the money that I'd spent on my own sort of private collection. That was a joint purchase with Lathan and MacKay. So the opportunity came up that it was at auction. I had this obsession with the Wembley Jump, and I wanted to try and buy that helmet for myself. I'd recently just sold my house, and the house I was buying fell through. So I had all this money in the bank, and I knew I could afford it. Probably not the best thing to buy if you're looking to buy another house, but the opportunity came up, and the only other person that really was going to be bidding against me was Lathan. And he was on the scene, and he was collecting massively anything to do with Evel. And I really didn't want to get into a price war with him, like a bidding war, for both of us just to put the price up on each other. So, we knew each other, so we spoke, and we agreed to sort of do the joint ownership thing. And that's what we did. So when the auction came up, I didn't bid against him, and he went ahead and bought it, and since then we've shared it. It spends its time getting shipped across the Atlantic twice a year, but that's I think that's about the biggest thing I've had to buy, and that came in at $72,000 for that one.
Oh, ouch! Yeah. Wow. Now I have to ask this question: Are you married?
No, thank God. I wouldn't be able to afford anything.
I was going to say, how come your wife hasn't killed you yet?
Because I haven't got one.
He sold her to buy the helmet.
Yeah, and the house.
Now, how about into your personal collection? What are your prize favorites?
There's some more Wembley-related things that I collect. I mean, just this week I've picked up some more X-rays that were taken of Evel in London when he had his crash. They came in this week. I already had some other ones as well. And I suppose apart from that, I've got some nice pieces done by George Sedlak, who I don't know if you know, but he was the artist who painted all of Evil. Well, not all, but all the the Harleys. They painted the fuel tank designs, his helmets. Did a lot of stuff for Evil in the sort of heyday of his career. And I've bought from George a replica of the Wembley helmet. He currently sells those on his website for about $10,000. But luckily, I didn't have to pay that much. I managed to buy it a bit cheaper than that. And I've got a painting that George did of Evil flying his Harley Davidson across, a background of the Star-Spangled Banner and the Union Jack with some buses below it. So that's another nice piece in the collection. I picked that one up last year. It took me a few years to get George to convince him to actually sell it, because we know he did the painting. He just sat on it for years and just teased us with small pictures of it. And eventually he gave in and let me buy it.
Hey, Bryan, I have a question for you. All your research, what is your best Wembley era? Trivia question, whatever, but what's something we don't know?
Oh, blimey. There were a few things I found out. There's a couple I think that you can find out about online. When Evil was over here, he did bring some vehicles with him. He brought over the big red Mack hauler truck, and also he brought over his custom Cadillac pickup. And it was reported over here that Evil was driving his pickup down the road, but obviously in England we drive on the left-hand side of the road, and Evil decided he didn't want to do that, and he thought he would drive his car down the right-hand side of the road. I think he got to about as far as the end of the road, and all the other cars were beeping their horns at him, and he kind of had to merge in with the rest of the traffic at that point. But there's some nice footage of Evil driving the pickup in London and driving down a road called the Mall, which is the road that's directly in front of Buckingham Palace. So you can see this, this lovely, gorgeous Cadillac driving down towards Buckingham Palace with Evil in it. Some of the other stories that aren't so well known. Evil was getting a ride in a taxi cab over here, and London drivers are quite notorious for driving quite erratically, and the roads are quite narrow and tight, and you've got to be quite a good racing driver sort of attitude really to get on the roads in London. Look for gaps and take them, and this particular cab ride that Evil was having, the cab driver was doing just that. He was driving quite quickly, and Evil got into an argument saying that he wanted him to slow down because he wasn't getting much time to see out the window all the views and all these wonderful sights that we've got here in London. And the cab driver just wanted to get going, so they ended up pulling over, and Evil started arguing. They were pushing and shoving each other, and Evil never paid the guy. There's another one. I think it was the Duke of Edinburgh, who happens to be luckily married to the Queen of England. He was having one of these gala evenings, and he invited Evil to attend the gala, and Evil flat out refused to turn up. I think he went and played golf again. So I've got a little snippet of a newspaper article about how Evel Knievel snubbed the Queen's husband.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That was going to be my question too. Like, what did the royal family think of Evil? Do you have any idea of that?
Well, I don't know them personally, Henry, but I'm sure after that they would have probably looked to take him up to the tower and off with his head, I would imagine.
Oh,
that's quite funny. When
funny.
Evil was over here, he stayed at a hotel called the Tower Hotel. And it's called the Tower Hotel because, ironically, it's right next to the Tower of London and Tower Bridge, which you may sort of know. It's this huge bridge with sort of raised drawbridges. And there's some footage that we found of Evil. And he's walking around the Tower of London and talking to the beefeaters, these yeoman guards, the guardians of the crown jewels that are kept inside the Tower of London. And, you can see this shot of Evil looking around and talking to one of these yeoman beefeater guards. And so that was quite interesting thing to find out. And when I had a at one of our famous EK UK gatherings over here, like the fans that we all met up in London, and we did a bit of a tour, and we kind of started off at the hotel on Park Lane in London, which was called the Inn at the Green, which was basically where Evel had his press conference. And we sort of continued to sort of visit all these landmark places where Evel was known to have been or gone or done press shots or stayed or did the jump. And it was a great day out for a lot of the guys who never knew any of these things that I've been finding out in my research. And we basically had this great day just trekking through London and going from one sort of place to the next that was just something to do with Evel Knievel.
Now, had you gone through and like kind of redid Evel's steps while he was in London? Like, did you go visit the places that he stayed at or stopped at?
Yeah, it was exactly that. We found one area. There was, before Evel came over and said he was going to jump buses, there was talk of him actually going to do a rocket jump over here, and there's you may have heard of the River Thames. It's quite a big river, and it gets wide and narrow in various places. But there was a talk that Evel was going to jump from the south side of this river to the north side, and so we went to the site where this would have happened, and took a look at the distances that he would have had to jump, and it was quite close to an area where he did one of his press photos, where he's kind of stood on the top of 13 coaches on the south bank of the river, which was one of the newspaper pictures that he did for us. And very close to that was this park called Clapham, in Clapham, called Battersea Park, and that park would have been the takeoff area for his rocket jump, and the other side of the river would have been what's called the Royal Chelsea Hospital, and the Royal Chelsea Hospital is where all what we call the Chelsea pensioners live, and Chelsea pensioners are famous sort of war veterans who've been in World War I and World War II, and they're quite well known in London. There's not many of them left now, but they were. It was their hospital grounds that Evel would have landed in, and it's very close to the back garden of Buckingham Palace. And I think Evel Knievel, when he put in his application to see if he could get to jump a rocket from Battersea Park into what would be the back garden of the Queen's house, they very quickly decided they wouldn't give him permission.
Wow.
Yeah, so he had to make do with jumping a bike.
Now, didn't he try to hit golf balls over the Thames while he was there?
He didn't just try; he did it. Yeah, he was staying at this Tower Hotel, and he managed to get himself a nice suite up on the top floor there, and it had access onto the roof. And so I think he got his 7-iron out and put a few shots into the river. And it's quite a busy river, there would have been plenty of targets for him to go for.
Knievel was a piece of work.
He was.
Now, I would imagine he probably went over there looking to do these type of jumps with the river and all that, since I guess he wasn't getting permission anywhere over here in the United States after the Snake River Canyon debacle.
Yeah, it was a funny time for him, I guess. He, first and foremost, he was a businessman. Before, you don't get up and jump and risk your life for nothing. There's got to be some kind of reward. And with Evel at that point in his career, it was very heavily financially driven. He lived a very lavish lifestyle, and he needed to sustain that. So, to keep up the income that he was kind of used to, having just attempted to jump the Snake River Canyon, his press wasn't so good at the time. Some people were kind of pointing the finger at him, saying it was his fault, wrongly, that he didn't make the jump. But so his toys, were the main source of the income. The Ideal Toy Company, the toys were made in Britain as well as the States, and they were exported to Germany, France. So he kind of had this ready-made marketplace of customers, basically over here. There were big sales of the toys over here, and so he knew he had a fan base. And so coming over here to jump for this, this crowd, we weren't too bothered that he'd, allegedly failed in his rocket jump and, wasn't as popular as, he would have been at the time in the States. So where he was kind of having a little bit of a decline in popularity stateside, he was popular as ever over here. And so I think it was quite natural for him to, come over here with the intent of not just touring Britain, but then a tour that went into Europe. And I believe the tour then would have gone off to Japan. I found that out in my research as well. There's, I don't know if anyone has kind of picture this, but on the rocket that he jumped, there's a picture of this rocket doing the rounds, and it's got a rising sun flag on it. And I think it says something along the lines of like a spirit of Japan or something like that. And that was a reference to the fact that Evel wanted to take his rocket to Japan and jump over Mount Fuji. So, yeah, I think that was the intention, tour England, tour Europe, and then go over to the, Far East, tour Japan.
So he in other words, he wanted to do more than conquer America. He truly wanted to conquer the world.
I think so, yeah. I mean, it was. I don't think deliberately conquer the world, but it was just a natural progression that you would go where you've got your fan base and where you can sort of further your career. And I'm sure, he would have done that had he not had, so many accidents. I know that he went out to Australia later in his career and with the intent of doing a tour out there, but that didn't last too long, that one, I don't believe.
How is he remembered now in England?
Very fondly. I think we're a nation of people that have kind of suffered quietly. As a nation, we're not the biggest country in the world, and we've lost a lot of things over the years as well. So to have a mentality of the British backbone, kind of the British spirit, if you like, is very similar to the ethos that Evel had. If you fall down, you get back up again and dust yourself off, roll your sleeves up and have another go at life. You don't give up. And that strikes a chord with British people, I believe. And so he's, I think he's very fondly looked upon in this country. I don't think anyone's got any issues with him. I can ask.
I think it's pretty impressive that, when was his last jump, 81, something like that? It's been that long, and, people all over the world still remember this guy. And for the most part, even though he had his moments, for the most part, he's still thought of as a superhero. Yeah,
I mean, it's a testament to what he achieved in his career. He set the standard, and even today, you get all these daredevils that jump 10 times further than what Evel did, but members of the public won't be able to tell you their name. I saw some guy on the TV doing a jump. I saw, but everybody knows who Evel Knievel was. And it's that kind of legendary status that he achieved, and he managed to do it while he was alive. The guy was a living legend, and you don't get many of those come along.
Plus, he had the best name in show business.
Now, in your research of the Wembley Jump and all, I'm sure you've come across people that were actually there.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, the vast majority of the guys that are in EK UK, our group, were there. And I get to talk to many people as well that attended the jump, and that they remember it fondly. It's something that's stuck with them for 41 years now. 41 years on Thursday, in fact. They've never forgotten something. It was one of the greatest moments of their childhood, when you talk to these people. And I'm sort of constantly discovering new people online that, were at the jump, and they want to discuss it and try and remember, or that, they want me to send them a DVD of the footage so they can kind of reimagine what all the acts were like that will build up to the show and the whole day, just just to remember your childhood is something that we can do these days with the internet, and kind of get things back. And it's great for a lot of people that I meet that were there on the day, that I've got all this information and all the video footage. Luckily, I met a guy, and he had all the original sort of pre-release TV footage that was taken before it was edited and put on air. And so everything's on there, all the 3.5 hours, basically, of a show that literally was 14 seconds from the bike starting to move till it stopped.
Kind of like what we're doing right now.
So you haven't lost your sense of humor.
Is there any sense of memory that all those people are in agreement with the Wembley Jump being in attendance? I think every time we meet up and we discuss it, we all just look back, and it's still a state of disbelief. It's still something you still to this day haven't comprehended, absorbed, and understood. It's just something that is still beyond your grasp as something that was magical. And this superhero figure, larger than life, did this amazing thing, and it's not anything tangible you can hold, and it's a memory and a fond memory for many people. And there's a lot of people that share that memory, and when we all get together, to discuss Evel, it's something that bonds us as well, and it's a lovely thing. And I've made a lot of friends, people I call close friends, because we've shared that moment. Wow. Now, what is your one memory, or the most important part of the Wembley Jump for you?
I think the crash.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. I'd kind of been through it 1,000 times, slowing the video down, trying to see if I could, change something somehow so that he would have landed, and I could have put a few more feet on the ramp that led down, or I could have changed the angle of the ramp, or maybe put a little kicker on the ramp to smooth out the transition from the level ramp to the diagonal ramp, or maybe we could have just lowered the height of the landing ramp, and all these things that I could have done in my mind that would have made Evel land. And I just think, in retrospect, if he had have made that jump, it wouldn't have been the jump that it is that we've all come to know and love, with this spectacular story of facing adversity and getting back up. Evel famously got up from that crash, not knowing he'd broken his hip again, there was a fracture on his hip. He had a broken bone in his hand. He'd compressed his spine, but he got up and he made his way back up to the ramp, and he addressed the crowd. And you just think to yourself, bloody hell! I mean, I've never seen anybody. I've seen a few car crashes and bike crashes in my time, and nobody gets up and walks back to the scene of the crime and says, I'm living for another day. They all lay there and wait for the ambulance, don't they? They don't move, don't touch him, And he got up, son of a bitch, got up, and he announced his retirement, which obviously he retracted, but it was quite the theatre. It was a huge spectacle, and there's so much to the jump. But I think it's the actual crashing. It's the emotion that's attached to that, and the acts that he did, getting back up from the crash, and all those things that they all pivot around the crash, the actual crash itself. So I think for me, the defining moment of Wembley was the fact that he did crash.
I think you hit it it's spot on, Brian. I as a kid, I watched that crash, and I thought to myself, I wonder if I got the stuff to take a ass whooping like that and be able to get up. And couple decades later, I found out I did. I don't recommend it to anybody, though.
No, I mean, I've had a few broken bones, and I'll quite gladly, cowardly sit in the back and wait for someone to push me around in a wheelchair. I don't have balls the size of an elephant, Henry, and I just don't know how you do it. You know, you get on that bloody bike and jump in the air. I mean, I can't even do it on a skateboard. Do you know what I mean?
Now, do you ride a motorcycle?
I don't. I think they're very dangerous things. So, yeah, I wouldn't be seen doing
Ironically. They are.
I do drive very fast in a car, but I shouldn't admit that.
That's awesome. Cool. Anything else you want to add, Bryan? I might have missed, or?
Well, apart from the fact it's my bedtime over here in London, and I think I better go and get myself a nightcap, but I think it'll be wild turkey, sadly, Evil's drink of choice. It's been a pleasure, Bay, to be on the show, and thank you, Henry, for joining me and asking me to come along. I hope you have a lovely evening yourselves, and thank you.
You too.
Thank you,
no
sir.
problem, Bryan.
Good
Thank
talking
you.
to you.
Thank you very much. Signing out.
All right, well, there he goes, Mr. Wembley himself, Bryan Richards, having a nightcap and some wild turkey in remembrance of Evil. How about you, Henry? You drink wild turkey? Henry?
Yeah. I've been known to from time to time. I'm sorry, I was so riveted into the interview there, how great you two sounded and how bad I sucked that, yeah, I think I needed some wild turkey then.
Well, you know what? We have somebody who's waiting patiently to get online, and he was also really digging the interview as well. And this guy worked for Evil. He was Evil's like right-hand man. Let's welcome to the show and the party, Mr. Mike Draper. How you doing, Mike?
Just fine. How are you guys?
Good.
Hi, Mike. How you doing, buddy?
Just fine. One of these days I'll meet you in person. I've talked to you a lot on the phone or back and forth on Facebook, but
this is the coolest guy, Bay. I mean, he's very generous with his time, and we've shared some conversations online, and I'll stop yapping and let him get to it.
Well, Mike, one thing I got to ask is, like, all these years later, right, does it kind of surprise you that the memory of Evil is probably even stronger today than it is 40 years ago?
Well, not after talking to a lot of the fans and stuff. When we originally, started getting on the social media, the Facebook or the was on Bob Cook's line there for a while. He had a Facebook page up for Evil and had quite a little bit of information, and you could tell who was Evil. But Henry was one of the big fans that stuck with it all the time and was pretty good about telling how it was. You got a lot of people that's armchair quarterbackers or, bench racing and stuff, and we still get that today. There's a lot of people that doubt what we come up with, what we told them and stuff. They kind of say, well, no, that's not what they had. And I said, well, we were there, we lived it, so I'm telling you that's the way it is. And we even there's a guy that's going to be doing the museum also with Scott Wiley, and he's a wealth of information on what the bikes were and when they changed over and stuff. And I was just totally amazed. A lot of the like Henry and all the other fans that really stuck with it, they can tell you how many stars were on the seat, which leathers they changed, when he jumped in them, what jump it was that he jumped in. And I remember we were at the drag strips and we were at the Coliseums and we were at the other stuff. And I said, I do remember it's a Harley. And I do remember when we switched from the 71 to his aluminum engine 750s. And but everybody's got it down. They know what helmet, and it's just amazing how strong it is right now. Everybody can really tell you some stories.
Wow. Now, when did you start working with Evil? What year was that?
Actually, in the 70s, we were at the Kansas State Fair, and I worked for a Hugo Shea, who was the Harley-Davidson dealership in Wichita, Kansas, and he promoted the cycle or the Camel Pro Series motorcycle races, and I actually worked on golf cars in Harley Davidson. I was 20 years old, and we I drove Hugo's truck. We delivered golf carts around the state of Kansas and Oklahoma for the golf tournaments and stuff. And anyway, we would set these up. He also had some place down in Winfield, Kansas. He had a Camel Pro Series down there in Hutchinson, Oklahoma City, and somebody had come up before, and I went with Hugo and his wife Thelma, and we went down to the Houston Astrodome where Evel had performed, and we were watching a guy, Evel jump and stuff, and this was just after his when he was doing some stuff down in out in Las Vegas, and he come up with a jump down there, and he wanted to promote him that. So he did. He hired Evel, and in fact, their little what they agreed on was stuff was written on a cocktail napkin, what they would do, what he would get paid and stuff. And I don't know where it's at, but Hugo actually had it put in plastic and stuff. So that's another thing we've got to find somewhere. But anyway, a lot of that agreement that they just wrote and kind of a handshake and wrote onto that. But anyway, I worked for I worked for Hugo, and Lee Ratliff had retired from Boeing Aircraft here in Wichita, and he rode a motorcycle along with his. He's got some brothers, Jim and Jim Ratliff, that done a lot of flat tracking with XR 750s, and we all got pretty close with that. And then Evel drove into town with Linda and all the kids, was in the Kenworth truck, and he used to drive the truck himself. And we brought it in, escorted it across there, and when he finally got done, did successful jumps and everything, he had asked Hugo if there was somebody that would be able to drive the truck. You know anybody that might help me do this? Well, Lee was, like I said, retired from doing that, so he kind of got on board first, and he traveled around, went to Cow Palace, and went to a lot of places out in that I didn't start until after that, about 6-7 months after that. And Lee came back and said Evel wanted somebody else to help him, and he said, "Would you want to do that?" And I said, "Well, yes." So we got hooked up, and off we went. We went to Atlanta, Georgia. Was one of our first stops we went to, and Evel overjumped his practicing ramp out there, and I, crashed and compressed his spine and got it where he couldn't do the jump. And I thought, boy, that was the shortest job I've ever had. And so we he got back out of that, and then in fact, that's where I came up with that Olympia parachute that got hung in the back wheel and stuff. But he got over that. He put a back brace on and went to Oklahoma City that way, and they actually kind of set him up on his motorcycle, and he did his jump in Oklahoma City. He was lots and lots of pain to kind of get me, pick me up, see him get me off. So, but he went through with that. He told him that he'd jump, and he did. But he had a lot of successful jumps, and then probably my biggest thing was the L.A. Coliseum. You see me at the top of the ramp. Evel would come up the ski jump ramp, and we would kind of help him slow it down a little bit. Well, the biggest thing we was up there for is helping him turn it around, because it wasn't a very big platform up there that was built. And like I say, Lee Ratliff built a lot of that ramp and built that up, and but it was just us two at the time. And I guess there was some other people that before that I really hadn't met until Evel days. I mean, 2013 was Ray Gunn, and that's quite a name, Ray Gunn. But I met him out at Evel days in 2013, and he could, you talk about some stories. I mean, he told about all the stuff that they did, and you knew he was around there, because you can tell when they say they worked for him, or we just hired some extra people, because if you listen to him, they really know him. You know him when he's away from him. It's not like, we knew Evel. We went to places and clubs. We went to all kinds of places, and it was always kind of funny. He has a real good friend out in Las Vegas, an Earl Castine. Him and his wife Brenda used to follow us around on vacations, and Earl become personal friends with Evel, and it's kind of funny. I talk to Earl and Brenda every once in a while out of Las Vegas, and it's kind of funny. We joke back and forth, and I don't know how many times Earl says, I don't know how many times Evel fired him. He'd turn around and you're fired, and he says, okay. And the next week he'd call him up and said, hey, I'm going to come out to Vegas. Can I stay with you guys? And, and Brenda was always kidding. She says, I can't believe these people. Says, I've seen Evel in his underwear, so it's no big deal now. And it's just, you really kind of meet with those people, and you know that they sincerely know Evel. When he was around and stuff around other people, he was turned on. I mean, it was Evel Knievel, and I always thought, and it was my job to make his jump as safe as we could, and make him look good. And didn't want to come up there and accidentally hand him his bike unless he had it and it dropped or anything, and embarrass him or anything that we could do to keep it where he, keep it on a professional level and keep him going. And the rumor was never true that he always said that Lee put on his leathers while he was in the hospital recuperating, and we were sitting out there signing posters and selling them and stuff. And I said, that's not true. So,
I never heard that one.
Oh yeah, he would always tell somebody, Lee and Mike, they were, while I was recouping in the hospital, Lee getting the leathers, and Mike they'd sign posters and stuff and sell them. And I said, yeah, right. I don't think so. But we went through a lot of stuff. We took the truck when we switched over to the Mack truck, and we hauled. Sometimes we hauled his Cadillac station wagon. It was a lemon pearl yellow Cadillac station wagon. We hauled his got a Maserati. We used to haul in that. We had he had two Ferraris, had a convertible and a hardtop. Had a Pantera, and we were talking about one time we needed to whip into town. We had a lot of laundry we had to do before the next place, and can't take a 62-foot truck all around and stuff in town and stuff. So we unloaded a Cadillac station wagon at that time and went to the laundromat. And you sure get a lot of looks pulling up in a Cadillac station wagon. Everybody's like, "Why are you coming to a laundromat? Why don't you just send out for it or something?" But it was a little different.
Did you ever, driving the semi, I think you told me this before, did you ever have a hard time with your fuel card?
Yeah, Evel gave us a mobile oil credit card, and we couldn't find a lot of stations, truck stops and stuff that would take those. And I finally called Mobile and asked them about it, and there was two places in the country. One of them was in Kansas. It was a little bitty stop and rob looking place in the middle of the road, and the other one was I don't know where the other one was. There's only two of them that had diesel. That was not a big deal, that you couldn't get in diesel. But anyway, we were driving and going along. We needed some fuel, and we happened to see the sign that says, fuel ahead, truck stop, and we accept all major credit cards. Boy, put on the brakes, got in there, pulled around the back. This first time we did, instead of using our cash and have to get refunded, reimbursed later on, this was a godsend. We're going to put the card on it. We can do this. And so we pulled back here, and Lee went out and was filling the generator up with gas, and we filled the tanks up, topped them off, whatever it was. And so I whipped out the card, and it was a younger kid that was inside there, and I asked him, I said, can you just put it on a card? And he said, we don't take mobile. I said, well, your sign out there said you take all major credit cards. Mobile's a big one. Well, if you read in fine print, and it was in kind of script, it says all approved. And it says mobile oil is not approved. And I'm like, ooh, okay. So here come Lee, all loaded deal. He says, oh, did you give him the card? And I said, they don't take it. And he threw the same scenario, and as soon as he told me, I said, nope, I've already read that. We've been through that. And he says, well, I don't know what to tell you. He says, I guess you'll just have to siphon it out. And this young kid says, I don't siphon fuel. I'm paid to pump it. And they said, well, you need to get your boss on the line. I don't know what to tell you. So he went over and got on the phone, and you got a little loud a little bit, and pretty soon he slams the phone up and goes in the back room, gets 2 5-gallon gas cans and this fairly new-looking garden hose, and he out to the truck to go. And he said, well, what'd your boss say? And he said, oh, he told me to siphon it out. Okay. You know, them tanks are like 75 gallons apiece. And, he told me that's what I'll have to do. So he's out there, and he's got the gas cans, and he takes out his little buck knife, and he cuts this fairly new-looking hose. And he's getting ready to stuff it in the tank. And he pipes up and says, how much did you say the total bill was? And it was only like $150. Now, that's a real old deal, because you can't fill anything up anymore for $150 like a truck. But
amen.
Anyway, he says, you know, come to think of it, he says, I think we got enough cash. We could probably just pay for that. That kid was not happy. He scooped them up and off to the, got there, and we told Evel about it. He said, that kid could have set my truck on fire, whatever it was, but we got out of there as soon as we could. We didn't want to have his buddies come down there and do anything and took off. But that's, and we did another thing when back east, at that time, 55 foot was the longest length that you could be. And we were 62 and a half feet long. And there was times that they had to rent a tractor to haul the trailer across state lines and stuff because the truck was too long, or get an overlength permit. But there's some states that said, nope, you're too long, can't do that. And then they, in fact, I just found one of those tickets that Lee had got, was overlength. It was $35 or $40, and you don't see those tickets anymore. You see them $1,000 or $1,200 tickets and impounds and stuff anymore. But anyway, we were going down the road time, and I was driving, and we got pulled over, and I knew what we were too long. I thought we was too long, and we had a air release on our fifth wheel, and while the trooper was back there calling us in and stuff, I locked the trailer brakes, unlocked the fifth wheel, and drove it. We had an automatic, and slowly backed the truck up until we got closed up. And you can't drive it real tight with it being closed up like that. But anyway, the trooper come out, and he's got his tape measure, and he said, I think you guys too long. And Lee says, well, I'll do it for you. And so he stands up, and while the trooper's pulling the tape out, and Lee stands up there by the front wheel and stands right beside the front wheel, and then he holds his arm out, extends it, while this trooper's looking down, looking at the number, and about the time the trooper looks up, Lee went ahead and let go of the tape, and he goes, did you get it? And he goes, yeah, I could have sworn it was longer than that. Well, with Lee standing right at the front tire and extending his arm out, it took quite a few feet off of it. But we weren't done yet. We didn't have permits. And he told me, he said, well, you got to go back down here to the service station with me, and we'll look through your permits. So you just, I'll take your buddy, the other co-driver, I'll take him down there, which was Lee. And he took him back down to the station. And he says, I'll have the other trooper in the medial strip here. I'll just have him stop traffic, and you can make a U-turn. And I'm thinking, now I can't turn sharp, so I got to extend the trailer back out. So while I was doing it, extending it back out, that trooper was looking at me like it was something was, your truck's coming apart or something. But anyway, I made the U-turn, got back up there, and that trooper says, well, what's the deal on your truck? And I said, oh, that's a special deal that Evel had on there that, we drive down the road with it collapsed because, that's the way it works and everything. But I said, we can't make sharp turns, and that's what's really nice about it. If you want to make sharp turns, you can release the fifth wheel. It'll slide back, and we can make U-turns. And he goes, well, that's just quite an idea. And I thought, yeah, it is, But we didn't have any trouble with logbooks. They got away with that
Mike,
pretty well.
How many tickets did you guys get out of because it was Evel Knievel? Did you ever get out any tickets for giving away pictures or anything?
Well, we did have one where we pulled into a rest area, figuring out how we were going to get around this but way station, because being overlinked and we didn't have a permit. And we have lots of people when we stop just come up, and it's annoying, but then it isn't. It's all right if somebody's asking those questions, but it just, do you know Evel Knievel? No, he just lets us drive the truck, and he pays you and stuff. Oh yeah, he does that, And but anyway, there was a guy that come up in white shirts, had him rolled up. He had a young kid with him, and he come up and they're looking all over the truck, and he's asking about it. He says, told him all this, and Lee and I was kind of put out with him a little bit, and this kid was coming. Oh, you guys carry these bikes? Yeah, we carry the bikes. They're back here. And yep. What's this big box up here for? Well, that's the dressing room. It's not something to live in. It's his dressing room and stuff. And he kept.
I would have been that kid.
And I'm just like, kind of go away, And we got, we're trying to think how we're going to sneak by this deal. Well, he walked by and he said, "Okay, thanks, guys." And he started to walk away and come back. And he said, "Hey," when you get to that way station up there, he whips out his card. And I said, "Yeah, no problem. Just tell him, I sent to him." Well, it was a superintendent of the highway patrol. He was out with his grandson. So needless to say, the kid got a full tour of the coach. He got a full tour, got to sit on the bikes, got a bunch of posters and all kinds of stuff. Well, we got ways through that way station with no problem. So anymore, it doesn't hurt to actually, be real friends with every deals. But yeah, I bet that, I don't know who that kid was, but his grandson, but he got the big full tour of it. Whatever you want to do. You want to sit up in the cab? You want to look at anything? Oh, no, we got to go. And I said, okay. But
I'm telling you right now, Mike, if I were to run into you guys at a rest area somewhere when I was a kid, I would have annoyed the shit out of you.
I know. Yep. Oh, we used to have the way station. We used to have the way station guys come out. I think it was up in Iowa. It was up on the highway, and they pulled over, and they had the lights up. Come in, bring your papers. And I thought, yeah, okay. So we'd pull over, go in there, and all there was a pop machine, and this table over there had a glass top on it. And he says, "Hi, how are you guys?" And I'm like, "Where are you at?" And he says, "Oh, we're at the way station across the highway." He said, we do this remote. He said, "Just take your paperwork and lay it down on that scanner over there, that monitor deal." And he said, "We can look at all your papers." And okay. And they said, "Is Evel with you?" I said, "No." And he said, "Do you mind if we come over and look at the stuff?" And I said, "No." So there was a tunnel underneath the highway, and they come underneath there and come over and looked all at the truck and all kinds of stuff. And there was another one of the deals, kind of handshake, yep, and overlooked, and off we go. We didn't get really hassled a whole lot. I mean, the law enforcement was pretty. I'd hate to be driving a truck now. I mean, I just can't imagine getting fuel $2,000 or more, and
yeah, I can imagine. I do it every day.
Oh yeah, Henry's doing it now, and that's now they're even adding more, for the log books, electronic records and stuff, and it's just I hate to be driving for Evel now. Yes.
I have a question for you. Big Red fell into disrepair for 35 years. I need to know. We talked about it before it was restored. How great was that feeling the first time you climbed back in the seat of that thing and drove it?
That's right. It's just amazing. Everything. It was kind of weird when I got back and we went up took it to Evel Days, and Tracy at that time was Evel's youngest daughter. I never did meet his other daughter until I actually went to Evel Days, but she was young enough she can remember it because they used to ride in the truck and she used to lay in the back. So, I mean, she started crying. I mean, the same way I told her. I said, I was 20 years old. I'm 64 now. And that just, man, that was a big thing. You couldn't think, here this truck is again, and those guys up at Historic Harley-Davidson's Topeka and all the other people up there that got that truck restored. I mean, it was a frame-off restoration. Wasn't an Earlshire, paint up the door, whatever it was, and do this. I mean, they did all, took the trailer down, and I mean, it's got new floor, new tires. People in the Goodyear tire people come out, put new tires on it, which it's got an arm load, and all the people that come up with doing that, just amazing to find all that stuff. I had to find there's an Olympia beer keg that's on the side of the truck. It says he was an authorized drop beer distributor. It took me 5, almost 6 years to find that. We used to have 4 of them on the deal, but I had all the Olympia guys out looking for one, and the guy happened to find it and call me, and we got it. Got one for the truck. It's on the side of where you open the coach up and stuff. But I can't believe how they took all that stuff. I mean, that truck just looks dynamite. It drives and just. They were both automatics. I mean, the Kenworth was an automatic, and then the Mack truck's an automatic also, which made it really, really nice to when you finally. I really didn't do anything special about it. If you learn where it actually turns and where the trailer it has those wheels all the way back at the trailer, and then the fifth wheel's at the back of that 29-foot truck. Once you learn how to bend that, it's really not that bad to drive. I mean, and Evel did have a lot of different guys that had going through the deal. They drove it, Bill Rundle, I guess, has drove it. Lathan, I think, has drove it. Moved it around anyway, but I mean, not really over the road. But I had it one time, and Lee was not with me, and I got it stuck on a side street, and I couldn't get it around the corner because the car was sitting right on the corner, and had a couple of flat-belly college guys that come over, and they said, well, we can bounce that car over the curb if you want to. And that's what they did. They got to bouncing it, and they bounced it on the curb, and I got it to go around the corner. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. He was talking about getting tickets. They suspended my license in the state of Wisconsin. They sent it to me and said, your license is not any good in Wisconsin. I was following Evel in one of the other Ferraris, and we were just on each other's tail about doing this. He said, I want you to stay close, and he always drove fast, and we're going there, and then pretty soon this Wisconsin state trooper goes flying by, on his loudspeaker, pull over up here, and pulled over, and here come another state trooper, and he pulled up, and he goes up, and at that time, we didn't get out with posters or anything, but we had to go over to this small town, and Evel happened to have a lot of money on him at the time, and he paid all the fines for us, and we took off, and it was probably about 3 months later, he wanted me to take the car from, I think it was Butte back out to California and stuff, so I drove that, and I was poking along in fourth gear because the old car just wants to run. It's a 12-cylinder, and I mean, it aches to run. And I was really good flying, going along the states and stuff, but I got in a hot dog run with a Mustang and out on the road, the free road and stuff. I could probably take him about doing that, not from the starting field, but we were flying along there pretty good, and I got stopped by a Wisconsin state trooper, and they wrote me another ticket, and I never did tell them about my other one, but evidently their computers did, and they sent me a deal and said, don't come through Wisconsin at all. We don't like your license or anything. So, but I was suspended for 6 months for doing that. But yeah, that's the kind of tickets that we got doing that.
Evel made you do
now
it.
we.
Yeah,
now,
he made me
Mike,
pay that.
with...
He said, you did that.
Were you with Evel still when he did the Wembley jump?
No, I was not.
Okay.
Last place I was at when we were out in Los Angeles, I transported him back and forth for his work release program and stuff. I was out there when he got all the other guys on work release, got them limousines and stuff, and he was in trouble with the probation officer, and he had to go over and tell that, and they would tell him, he said, Evel, quit doing that. I know you got a good heart, just don't screw with the system. Just do your work release, and we'll do that. And that's where I got to meet a lot of Evel's friends, the celebrities as far as Leslie Nielsen and Jamie Farr and stuff, because we went down to, I think his last name is Andrews Productions, and this guy gave him an office to be into. And when he got done, we'd have to go check him back in at about 6 o'clock. And we did this for quite a while, and I stayed at the Sheraton Universal, and all the time that he was spending his time to do that, and he come back to the hotel one time, and he just overloaded him, had lots of stuff going on, and I think the wild turkey was just eating his lunch and about doing it. And he says, I'm just not going to go back. He says, I got some stuff I need to straighten out. So he didn't go back. And I thought, boy, this is going to be one of them O.J. Simpson deal, driving down the highway in the Bronco, and I'm back in the back or something. But he told me, he just says, you stay here, and I'll be in contact with you. Well, he met some other friends out in his other good friend out there was Jack Swank and his golfing buddy, and it was quite a little bit. About 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, I guess Jack talked me back in that this won't go away. He said, you're going to have to, cut your hair off, grow a mustache, whatever it is, and get out of the country, because he said you have to find a country that doesn't do extradition and stuff. But anyway, he finally come back, and they charged him with escape. And we went to court, and I remember Judge Edward Raffiti was his judge. And Evel testified, he's just had a lot on his mind doing that. And he said, I just had to get out and do that. And the prosecutor said, well, even though it wasn't sirens blaring, going over the wall, whatever it was, you're making a little mockery. You come in and signing autographs in the lobby, and, just kind of making a big deal. And they didn't like that. So he says, I'm going to give you 6 more months to think about that. And they shipped him out to the Mariloma Honor Facility, which is just out there at the desert. And needless to say, Evel had a telephone credit card, and he rang my phone all the time when I stayed at the Sheraton Universal. And it was an all-day trip out there at the Mariloma Honor Facility. And Evel, in his accident, was about, 1.5 inches or something shorter on one side. It shoved his leg up into his hip, and he had to have an extension on his shoe. And so I had to go out there and get his shoes and go find a shoesmith to do that. And the look on their face, and they said, well, what do you want this for? And I went, well, it's for Evel Knievel doing it. And, well, I can do that. Okay, so we got it and took it back over there. And then it was, this is when I stayed with Carl Green. Carl Green took care of all of his vehicles and stuff, and Carl and I would go back and forth out there, and Evel had to sneak some posters in one time. He said, we always empty the trash in a certain barrel on the east side of the building out by the road. And said, bring me about 20 or 30 posters rolled up, just leave them in there, and they'll take care of them. So it was one of them clandestine deals, drive up there and put all these posters in this trash can and put a little bit of stuff over the top of it. And I guess they got to all the people they needed to go to. And I took a bicycle out there one time, left it the same way by that trash can, and somehow or other one of the guards' son got it or something. But Evel was the same way out there. He just signed autographs, got along with everybody, got along with the prisoners. And in fact, he threw a big party at the Sheraton Universal for all his ex-con people and stuff. There were some pretty shady characters he had come over there. So, but it was quite a deal. But yeah, I used to pick him back and forth and stuff. You had to get up real early, go pick him up, and he'd have to take all his jewelry off, and he'd sit out there and give me his cane, give me his rings, and all that stuff, and and driving him in his I just escaped what it's his custom car. It wasn't his Cadillac pickup. Maybe the guys will think of it here after a while. But anyway, it was a special build convertible, and he always made a big thing per show. We pull up, and he'd get out and go in, and I think that's what really made them all mad that he was doing that. And they said, in fact, that's what the judge even said. He said, I'd get tired of picking up the paper, and you were supposed to actually be in here, a little crime or whatever. He wanted him to do that, and it just, I guess it embarrassed those guys, and they wanted to make an example of him. So,
wow. But wow, Mike, this is great. And I hate to cut you short because I have to get John Hood on the phone next. But me and Henry were talking earlier, and we're going to do more of these. And we were thinking probably the next one we're going to do like the anniversary of Snake River Canyon, and we have to have you come back on and talk more Evel.
Okay. Yeah, John actually was the one that I was working here in Wichita, Kansas, and couldn't leave my job or whatever it was at the time to go back. So John, who had done some stuff before for Evel, actually drove the truck over there. And you talk about somebody that's probably got a wealth of knowledge of what went on. He was the mechanic. He's the one you see bending over and talking to him. and taking care of the bike. So yeah, he'll have a lot.
Nice. Cool.
Yep.
Mike, I want to thank you so much. And seriously, this has been incredible.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you guys calling. Thanks, Henry. And I'll see you not in the funny
Mike.
papers, but I'll see you on Facebook.
Yeah, buddy, you're great. I love our conversations, and thanks for doing this for us.
Okay. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
You too, Mike. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye.
All right, there he goes, Mike Draper. And all me and Henry's been saying all along is the worst part of this whole thing is we could be doing this for like 10 hours, and we just don't have the time. So there's going to be many more parts to this in the future, and we're going to have guys like Mike come back, and I'm sure we'll get John to come back and Lathan and all. So, but real quick, I'm going to take a quick commercial break, and then I'm going to get John on the phone, and on the flip side, we're going to talk to Mr. John Hood. So stay tuned.
This is Big Ed Beckley, and you're listening to Totally Driven Radio. Turn it up and rip the knob off.
All right, welcome back to Totally Driven Radio, and I have John on hold, and let me see. There he is. Okay, cool. Are you ready, Henry?
I'm good.
All right, let's get him on here. Let's welcome the one and only Mr. John Hood. John, welcome to Totally Driven Radio.
Yes, good to be here with you.
Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Hood, how are you?
I have a little duplication there. What is that?
I said, hi, Mr. Hood, how are you?
Okay, who is this? Besides Bay?
That's Henry Rife. That's Daredevil Henry Rife.
Okay,
so
Henry.
You have Henry and you have me.
Okay, great.
So you were actually the mechanic and the guy with Evel over there at Wembley.
Yes, I took the equipment over preparatory to that jump, and I had to set up everything at Wembley, and that organization Top Rank is the one that did it. Bob Daly, I think his name is. John Daly, I think it was. And then Evel came over a short while later to do a little practice jumps, not very much, but to get acclimated and look over the situation.
So how much, like, you were there, I guess, like a couple weeks or so before him to get things ready?
Yeah. Yes, because I'd shipped the equipment, the truck, and then flew over and met the equipment and took it to the site, Wembley site. So that was all preparatory before Evel came over.
Now, what did you think personally, like once he got the offer to do the Wembley Stadium thing and you guys were planning to go over there, what were your thoughts about going over to England and Wembley Stadium?
Well, I'd never been there before, but at the canyon jump, the group was at the canyon jump and asked Evel if they would send, if it was okay if they would send me over and look at the sites besides Wembley. He had football stadiums that they wanted him to jump at, and they were fairly small compared to our stadiums. And they had me come over for a few days, took me around to the different sites, and then it was agreed that, yes, they could probably accommodate the kind of jumping he was going to do after the Wembley jump.
Oh, wow. So you really weren't the guy then?
Yeah, I really was the only one that worked with him for the off and on 4 years or so. I started in 72 sometime when he got his first Kenworth truck before the Mac and before the canyon jump.
And now, how come you were the only one that went over with him and for him?
Well, he didn't have a group. It was a one-man operation. I left Butte in a snowstorm, and we did have a driver for the Sky Cycle van that took it to the ship in New York for me. But I traveled alone most of the time, even in the States when I was going from site to site. And over there, I was the only one that was sent from here. We hired a couple people over there to help with equipment, but I was his main man.
Now, how did you get hooked up with Evel?
Well, I retired motorcycle racing, and I was at West Windsor, New Jersey, little dirt track, and Al Wilcox, which was another co-racer, had Evel up in northeastern Pennsylvania, agreed to come down and jump at this little racetrack. Well, I was a pit steward at the time, and that's when I met him because he had to jump a Harley for the first time, and they needed handlebars and a tachometer, and I introduced myself to him at that time.
Wow. And all this was so fascinating.
Well, the rest of the story that is, he was prepping to get a new truck to put the coach on it that exists on it today. And he asked if I could work with him to weld and paint and things on the new coach, which was in a couple of months' time. And I agreed to be there because it was in Pocono, Pennsylvania, that the Kenworth was going to be driven to from the build site in the Midwest somewhere where they make the Kenworth. And then he called me and said, "Okay, I'm up in here. Can you come up and work with me?" And that was my first real job with him back in '72 when he had a new Kenworth built.
Wow. Okay, John, I have a question for you. So you're over in England. You have everything. Did you supervise all the ramp construction and everything?
No, that wasn't my responsibility. Wembley, as you're familiar with the site, is a lot of seats on a pitch of about 25 degrees maybe or so. And the company that had him jump the 13 buses and actually contract with Evel agreed to make a ramp from the top deck of the chairs with a little platform and go down the ramp. That's what would give him gravity momentum because it wasn't a long run out. And Evel sort of did everything by feel. Never had a tachometer, never had a speedometer, and just assumed how much speed he was going to need to jump at a given distance. That's why he failed many times. And his failures were as notorious as his successes.
Now, did you ever catch any flack for was the responsibility of the failure on you?
No, because he had agreed the distance that it was going to be and what gearing was on the motorcycle. He mentioned one time a lower countershaft gear may have given a little bit of advantage getting speed to get into the flight over the last bus. But this was very similar to the Caesar's Palace where he had a Triumph at the time, and he hit the last end of the ramp. Well, he hit the last bus at the Wembley Stadium, and that's what made him catapult over the handlebars. And so it just was not quite enough speed and momentum at the last bus.
I noticed I rewatched the Wembley Jump today, and I noticed, and I don't know if I ever really got this before, but he changed his bikes right before he jumped, didn't he?
Yeah, he did a wheelie. He had a bike that he did wheelies on, and the jump bike was set up a little different than the wheelie bike. The wheelie bike did have a lower countershaft on it, and that would be the difference. And there was a parachute on the jumps that he needed the stopping for a longer run out. He didn't have a parachute on this bike. It was such a short run.
So he planned to do that all along, because I watched the video, and he was on the wheelie bike, and he run down there 2 or 3 times, and then he pulled off, and I seen, you talking to him, and then, you guys walked over and jumped on the other bike. You push-started him, and he got on that, did a couple speed runs, and then he did his epic jump and ultimate crash. So that was the plan all along?
Well, Evel was a showman, a performer, and he didn't have a lot of technical savvy on this one. He had the existing ramp, he had the distance to jump, and the other factor was the power of the motorcycle to get. No, Harley was heavy heavier than most bikes you see people jumping today, and the suspension was not what you would prefer to jump that kind of distance and the landing. And that's why when he failed on the Harleys, it was because the spring action didn't give enough and just catapulted him off the seat over the handlebars.
Wow. Now, I thought I could have swear, like, I've seen a lot, like, in the documentaries and stuff like that. He knew going into this jump he wasn't going to make it. Is that true?
Well, it was almost a feeling like the canyon jump. He knew the circumstances and the risk, and he really had never jumped out of a stadium like that with the downforce from the gravity, and the distance of 13 buses was a pretty good span. So it was a hit or miss with Evel. He was a performer, a showman, and he did take chances, just like that first Caesar's Palace jump.
Wow. Now, I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm a professional jumper. I jump with an ATV, not a Harley. But I was on the phone today with my crew chief, Russ, and he wanted me to convey to you that, it's never the mechanic's fault. It's always the riders.
Well, there's you're right. He sort of was the boss when it came to the way his motorcycle was set up. Harley supplied him with 3 motorcycles. We had an extra one go with us that Roger Riemann built for us in Michigan before I loaded him in New York. So he really had control of that. I maintained what was there. I didn't have to do tune-ups on them, just make sure everything was tight. And he really only had very short runs on these. They never wore out. They got damaged more than anything on the spills.
So what was the night before he actually did the jump? Lathan MacKay told me I should maybe question you about some of the nightlife before the jump with Jack Swank and all that. You got any insight on that?
Well, yeah, we would go out at night. He would like to go to different clubs and sort of play the celebrity role because he liked to be the center of attraction, and wherever we went, there used to be a small group. There was a writer over there with us that was writing the movie for Irwin Allen, and the writer was taking in everything was going on. But I remember one night we were at this club, and there was a few English gals at the end of the bar, and just Evel decided to leave, and we left, and he noticed that the writer never noticed that we left, and he sort of put pleasure in that because the writer wasn't giving Evel the attention that he thought he should. And the writer found us at the next place, and he was all upset that we'd left him there at the other bar. But that was a little thing Evel did just to show him, well, don't neglect me. I'm your main man.
Now, what did you think, of Evel personally, like when you first started working with him, and as time went on?
Okay, I found him to be a perfectionist. He wanted to do what he knew what he wanted, and if you're capable of doing that, everything was fine. You didn't tell him you could do what he could do or attempt to do anything like to compete with him. He was loyal. I put him 3 times, and each time he called me, he said, I remember what you did on the truck. He was very intent on trustworthy, loyal. I didn't make a lot of money, but it was an entertaining and sort of an exciting type job, no matter what we were doing or where I was at the time. So he had his certain frailties. He liked to be himself when he was out among the other sex and attraction. He never had an old pair of clothes or old jeans or anything. I never did see him in dirty clothes the whole time I worked with him. He was always dressed to meet the public wherever we were or whatever the case may be.
Now
as
the time,
go ahead, Henry.
I'm sorry, Beg. As the time went on and Evel retired and all his stuff went in disrepair. We just asked Mike Draper about Big Red being restored. What do you think? What do you think about all this? The Evel kind of coming back into popularity.
Well, I was surprised when I saw the truck in a salvage yard. When one TV show had someone find the truck, and I thought, wow, we're going to return that, restore that. That was great news. And then when MacKay, Lathan showed me the truck, I was really impressed and surprised that someone had the wherewithal to do this, and with the help of Mac and everybody else. The truck is a beautiful restoration. I was really impressed with it. I enjoyed sitting in it when we had the Viva Knievel premiere in Hollywood. And it just seemed like 40 years went by, and now Evel's popularity remains to a degree. The truck in the museum back there, it's quite a thing to behold. I think he's left his mark on the stunt world for some time.
I think he left his mark on the world.
Yeah, it was quite an experience for me, a period of time. I didn't see much of him after he retired, and I often wondered with Kelly. I heard that Kelly was taking over the truck they call it Big Red. I call it just the Mac. And I was really impressed with everything that happened in these past years.
Yeah, Lathan told me a story about. I'm sorry, babe. There's a little delay.
No, go ahead.
Lathan was telling me a story about meeting you and you getting to see the truck for the first time, and he said he could see in your face how much all that meant to you and how impressed you were, and look, you guys went through all that stuff with Evel, and I just think it's great that his memory's still alive, because your memory's still alive through all this, and I'm glad we get to talk about all these stories about him, because if we don't talk to you, then none of these people will ever hear this stuff.
Yeah, just one instance. I was taking the truck to New York. I didn't have the right permits to go through New Jersey, because I just did all the other ones, but New Jersey was just a short run into the ferry, like on the boat. And I was stopped on the New Jersey Turnpike with highway state troopers, and I thought, uh-oh. They come over to the truck, and they said, "Hiya, is Evel with you?" I said, "No, I'm taking the boat to be shipped to England." And he goes, "Well, wait a minute." In a few minutes, there was 2 other state police there that called them up and said, "Hey, look what we got here." They all wanted to see what was in the truck. They didn't ask me for any identification or permit. And at that time, Evel had a pretty good reputation of his stunt celebrity status. So he was a pretty big celebrity draw. So they all asked if he was with me. And it always happened to see if I was ever stopped. They always asked, "Is Evel with you?" And most of the time he wasn't. But when he was, it was at the way stations or somewhere. Everyone was impressed because he did have this celebrity status at that time.
Now, how about like the whole celebrity thing? Like you're saying, like who was the biggest celebrity that you met with Evel?
Well, Tammy Wynette was one that was in the hospital room after Evel crashed, and I was taking his leathers, and he asked me, "You know who this is?" And I said, "No." He said, "Well, you dumb son of a bitch, it's Tammy Wynette, the most famous country singer." And that was when I met Mickey Rooney. I took Mickey Rooney home one night. Quite a few people, Lauren Hutton, Gene Kelly. He played the part I did for Knievel in the Viva Knievel movie, and it was quite interesting among the celebrity status people that he still had this draw, like Tammy Wynette. I did go with her tour bus just a few nights after I left the equipment in London. She told me where her tour was in the Ozarks, and it was very interesting. She had just started appearing after George Jones' breakup, doing a Christmas special in England. And I went through the Ozarks on the way back home, and I was able to tour with their tour bus before I went back to Philadelphia, New Jersey, area where I lived.
Wow. Was it kind of like with like you were saying with like Evel Knievel and all that? Was that kind of like it had to be kind of mind blowing for you that they're making movies of this stuff that you were living?
What was that? How I felt about it?
Yes.
Well, at the time, it was exciting for me. Probably it was an experience. But since when I left Evel, I worked 20 years with the studio as a transportation coordinator, and MASH was one of my shows I did. And it all was exciting, but I wasn't struck or anything like that. When I met Tammy Wynette, I didn't realize the popularity she had in the country music until after she died even. I was in Fox having lunch one day at the commissary. It was 2 years later, and this blonde lady looked at me and said, "Evel." And I looked at her, and I said, "Tammy." She was having lunch there from doing the Love Boat series, and that's the last time I was ever saw her, because she got canceled from that. She had some kind of a illness come on before they could finish her period of time with the show, and that's the last time I had met her.
Wow.
What is your best memory of Evel?
What was my what?
What's your best memory of Evel? Not, whatever, behind the scenes, jumping, whatever.
Well,
what's your favorite thing about Evel?
The best memory was that he gave me the full responsibility. Before we shipped the truck to London, there was a snowstorm in Butte, Montana, and I had to drive it to New York, and I said, "I have to leave tonight." He says, "John, there's a snowstorm out there. It's the only piece of equipment we have." And I said, "I know, but I've got to leave tonight." And I left in the snowstorm until I got out of town and got a hard pack, and I was pretty good after I got over the mountain. But just giving me the freedom of the responsibility, I appreciated that. And I think I felt more like a brother to him than an employee, because I looked after the equipment, and he knew that I was taking care of the equipment. It was kind of a sticker. We wanted this equipment to be right, and he wanted people around him to be right, although sometimes he did treat people right. He never did anything evil towards me or wrong that I would felt any animosity towards him.
Now, how about with the Wembley Jump? I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
with the Wembley Jump.
Go ahead, babe.
Were you one of the guys that helped him up after the crash and when he did the retirement speech?
Yeah, on Wembley, you mean?
Yes.
Yes. At Wembley, I was on the sidelines there, and I saw him crash. Frank Gifford was the announcer at the time, and we ran down to where he was. And as I got to him, I leaned over and said, "Are you okay, or are you hurting?" And I helped him get the helmet off. He said, "Help me up, get me up." And Frank was alongside of us, and Frank said, "What do we do?" I said, "Well, we got to help him up." And we helped him up, and he walked up the ramp because he was in shock. But knowing Evel, he was hurt a lot of times when he was jumping. Anyhow, he was hurt, and he said, "You people have saw me jump for the last time." Well, he admitted later he was under a shock at that time, and he wasn't going to quit with failure of 13 buses. And that's why when we parked all equipment in London for those 3 months, he intended to jump 14 buses and be successful at it. And that's what happened at Kings Island, Ohio. He made the 14 bus jump successfully, and it sort of made full circle of the stuntman nature that he had in him.
Yep.
Were you around for the shark jump?
No, I had left him at the studio when Irwin Allen started the movie. He was getting a little unreasonable, I felt, and I thought, well, all the guys around said, I can stand this. And there was one little instance I said, well, I don't think I'm leaving. And that's when I quit him for the last time. and I just felt it was time to leave. And well, even though the movie was in partial beginning, I just felt there was something wrong there. I had to leave. But although he did invite me to the premiere when we showed the movie with Irwin Allen when they finished it, and there was no hard feelings. It was just that I went my way and he went his way. But when he came on the commissary at Fox and did that to Shelley Saltman, that ended his entire career as far as income and image goes.
Were you surprised by him doing that?
Yes, I was, because I know one time he did break somebody's leg with a cane that was a piece of pipe instead of his cane, because he didn't pay him the amount of money that he was supposed to before a jump. Something happened with a money dispute, and he did hurt somebody at that time, but I never experienced any of that the whole time I was with him.
Wow. Did you ever think of writing a book, John?
My niece always talked to me about, you should write a book. No, there is a man that got a lot of information from me that did a book on Knievel after the canyon jump, and I supplied him with a lot of information from the newspapers and clippings and things. That was out several years ago, but I don't really have any desire to write a book. I don't know whether my experience would be copyright interesting.
Well, it's interesting to us.
Oh, yeah, I'm riveted.
Wow. Well, John,
my computer's blown up.
John, I want to thank you for taking time out and talking to us. And we said this to Mike Draper before, and I'm going to say the same thing to you. Henry and myself have already been talking about doing another one of these, probably to remember the canyon jump, and we'd love to have you come back on and talk about the canyon jump and some more evil stories if you'd like to come back on.
Yeah, I think I've got a few that you haven't heard probably.
Oh, I'm sure.
Okay, that'd be great.
Great,
keep in touch.
John. I would have. Yeah, absolutely. I know how to get hold of you, and I want to thank you so much.
Okay, you're quite welcome. I enjoyed talking to you guys.
Thanks, John.
Great.
Okay, right.
Take
Bye
care,
now.
John. All right, there he goes, John Hood.
That was awesome.
Wow. I'm like blown away. I feel like I'm 5 years old again.
Oh, me too, man.
You guys still there? You're not online now?
Yeah, we're still here.
Okay.
Did you want me to put you on hold so you can listen to the rest? We're going to bring Lathan on in a couple minutes.
Yeah, I can listen to it from here. But do you get a copy of this from the other guys telling their stories? Is there a copy available?
Yeah, I can get you a copy.
Can I just go to the internet and get it?
Yep. I'll get an email address from you or somewhere to send it, and I'll send you the whole copy so you can listen to the whole show.
Oh, great. Okay.
Great.
Want me to give it to you now?
No, not now. Just so people aren't bombarding you. I'll give you a call off air, and I'll get it from you.
Okay. Okay, good. Anytime.
Okay.
All right, dude's cool.
All right, here we go. Let's see.
I know another cool guy.
You know another cool guy? Who's that?
Yeah. I think he's waiting to talk.
There he is. Okay, yeah, there's two callers, and I wanted to make sure I pick up the right one. All right, he's waiting patiently. Let's bring him on. This dude is the man. He's the CEO of EK Enterprises, and he's my new friggin' friend, and I am quite ecstatic by that. Let's welcome Mr. Lathan MacKay to Totally Driven Radio. What's going on, Lathan?
Should I speak to Jay Sarno?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
You guys are cutting into my nap time here.
Oh, look at you. You getting nappy time?
How was Hood? I caught the end of Hood. He sounds like he's a brilliant. I love talking to him. I could talk to him for days.
Yeah,
well,
definitely.
both of them were
definitely.
great.
Can you guys hear me all right? I'm in tornado
I hear you
alley
great.
over here. I'm in Kansas, and there's tornadoes destroying half of the land here. So.
Well, let me ask something, because you guys are setting up the museum in Kansas. Was it scary that a tornado could blow it away?
Oh, no. Well, I mean, actually, today it was interesting. I took Crystal Knievel to the airport. We were doing some museum press, and I drove back, and I got a call that there was a tornado. I got a text from a friend that said, I'm in a bunker hiding out from the tornadoes, and I called the shop, and Bruce answered. He said, yeah, we're all down in the basement because the sirens are going off. And, I mean, that's the last catastrophic one was, I guess, 40 years ago, but I guess this is the par with the course here. You never know what you're going to get. But luckily the building's very sound. Yeah, and then her plane was on the runway for another hour. I mean, it's just the saying here is if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes, it'll change, and that's absolutely true.
Wow. Now, how did you, because I was asking Henry this earlier, I said, how old is Lathan? And he's like, I think he's in his late 30s. So I was like, how the hell did this dude become so into evil when he wasn't even really alive as a kid to truly experience the heyday of it?
It's because I'm from another planet. No, I don't really like current, times as much. I'm really a 70s kind of cinephile, and I was born in the latter part of the 70s, but I've always lived in the 70s in my head. And I really, I don't watch television. All I watch is 70s cinema. Some 60s and 40s stuff, but I won't watch anything made past probably 79. And
wow.
It's just there was a freedom to that time period. There was a freedom to filmmaking and artistic expression, and Evil was part of that. I knew who he was as I just heard he's a household name, obviously, but he jumped in the Astrodome. I was born in Houston, unfortunately, but he was, he did some very successful jumps there, and I heard of him as a kid, but the skateboarding, when I became a skateboarder and got sponsored, I mean, he was always kind of in the back of our minds as the guy. He was the guy that started the whole thing. Even if you if you weren't, knowledgeable about him in depth, you knew that he was the guy. So that's kind of where it started. But other than that, yeah, I just kind of do things in my own weird fashion, and the 70s is a huge part of that.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, when you think of the 70s, you think of the 70s, you think of evil.
Yeah, I mean, my father said the same exact things Evil did to me when I was a kid, and I didn't really realize it till later. He always said, you can do anything you put your mind to, never give up, don't lie, well, which, everybody's got to lie to an extent, but, just be loyal and keep your word and that kind of stuff. And, I mean, that says a lot about a person's character. All I gauge people on in this world is loyalty and being genuine and individuality. That's pretty much everything to me. Oh, yeah, by the way, I need this. Hold on one sec. I got to say something.
Yep.
My friend James Bacalich caught 10 mahi-mahi in Fort Lauderdale today, and he's listening in, and I had to say that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I can attest, a couple of years ago, I was shooting Heirs to the Dare, and Lathan drove 3 hours out of his way to come meet me. And while that was going on, he showed me some of his evil artifacts, as he calls them, and he's kind of a weird dude, but it's not a bad weird. It's a really cool weird. Everything about him reeks of retro, and I can't put my finger on one thing, but I dig it. And if you met him or when you meet him, Bake, you will see what I'm talking about. Everything about him is retro. He is a old soul in a newer body.
That's awesome.
I don't know. I'm using a cane right now because I have tendonitis in my foot. But, no, it was great. That was a great trip. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, what's scary? Like, how many of us Evel Knievel fans look forward to the day when we can truly use a cane to be like Evel?
It was hilarious because everybody thought I was full of shit. Can I say that? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
Yeah, I was walking around the museum last week. I could barely walk. It's just when you have tendonitis, this portion below your toe is just ruptured. It's awful. So I'm walking around with this cane, and they're like, "Oh, is that for show?" And I'm like, "Well, ironically, it seems that way." But so I was using a walking stick. Then I went down to the vault, and I got out one of Evel's canes, and I was like, "You might as well do it right," because I've never had an opportunity to actually need to use a cane. So I filled the thing full of whiskey, and we just, played the part correctly.
I'm jealous.
That is awesome. I know, right? Now, that's the thing. Like, you have, so much of Evel stuff. Like, how did you start getting involved with all this and accumulating this stuff?
It was as simple as I was curious as to why he had no museum, and I was in Marfa, Texas, doing a production, a promotional photo shoot for this film we were prepping, and I sat at a computer in Rock Hudson's apartment that he used during the filming of Giant, that we rented for a week, and it was really a magical place. It was haunted, and I was sitting there at the table, and I was like, I'd always, looked online occasionally for Evel things, but I just Googled Evel Knievel Memorabilia Museum, and it was just a complete roadmap of L.A. It was it was a total mess. So I found this thing, and my obsession was trying to find this one jacket. At first, it was one jacket. It was a Sky Cycle jacket with a rocket on the back. It was a crew jacket, and I found a website that was not run by the estate, and I just got this bug, and it started out like that, and I emailed the guy, and I said, I'd like to buy a set of leathers, and, just to make a long story short, this went on for months, and I was dead serious, and the guy I'd sent him emails from different email addresses, and I said, hey, I would really like to buy a set of leathers, because he claimed he was selling a set of leathers, and we won't go into who he is, and but so 3 or 4 months later, they're on eBay, and I wrote him on eBay, and I said, dude, I offered you anything you wanted for these things. And he wrote back, oh, I didn't know you were serious, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, what will it take? And he told me. And then he said, well, of course, there's this doctor in New York who wants them in a bad way. And I'd heard about this doctor several times after this. So we made a deal, and he shipped them to my house overnight. And I put them on, and something happened. And I wore them for literally, you can ask my friends, there's pictures of me wearing them. I wore them for several days. I even wore them out to the bar. I rode my motorcycle to the bar with them on, and I just really got excited about life again. I was just kind of burned out on what I was doing in film, and it's just very arduous. But I just felt this spark and a severe inspiration, and that was it. And then 2 days later, I got a call from Crystal and I were friends on Facebook, and Alicia. There was this small amount of that happened actually prior to that. There's this underground Facebook pages that Henry knows of. He can tell you about those. And my friend Chance Miller from Austin invited me into it. And I was like, wow, there's this whole subculture of people that are really fascinated and respectful of this guy's legacy. And they were all fired up because a guy from Austin, Texas got some leathers. In the first purchase, it was Evel's leathers, Robbie's his second set, which is a red and white set from when he was 17 and went on his own. And then Kelly Knievel's only set of leathers. So Crystal messaged me the next day and said, Kelly'd like to talk to you on the phone, and that's how I met Kelly. I talked to Kelly on the phone the next day. Cut to Evel Days, my friend Robbie Hull and I to Evel Days, and we immediately met Alicia. She's like, come meet me at the Headframe Spirits, and we went, and at the end of Evel Days, the fever was so high, it was just out of control. I found a helmet shortly after that, and then it spiraled. And the goal internally for me was to get as much as I possibly could as fast as I possibly could before the market figured it out and raised the prices astronomically, which is what has happened now with the few items that are left.
Right.
Luckily, some people are donating things and graciously being amazing. But yeah, there's only a couple of things like that are floating around that are not super relevant, but they're, you know, they need to be in there. But there's a couple of guys hanging on going, I want $5 trillion for a bicycle tire. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, you know, it's
pretty ridiculous.
Funny you say that, because as we've been doing this show, I've been sitting here, and probably my number one search always on eBay is Evel Knievel. And I was sitting there just scrolling through, and somebody is selling the chute hatch from the Sky Cycle for $1 million.
Oh yeah, that's Gary Brigado. He's a nice guy. You can ask Scott Truax. I've been to his place. It's just not. It's a piece of crushed, you know, aluminum. It's not. You know, it is a crucial piece, but it's not worth more than 2 Sky Cycles. You got to be serious here. You know.
Right.
But I'm telling you, it's always the one item that really, you know, the one item that one guy can clutch in his hands and just go, I want the moon for this thing. And you know, I get it. You know, it just is what it is. You know.
Lathan, what's the one item you want but you don't have?
I can't really discuss that. No, we're doing some really cool stuff. In the last week we've done some really huge stuff and really proud of it. But yeah, we're getting close, and you know, hopefully we're going to work with Kelly in depth. Kelly's been great this whole time. You know, as far as his items go, and he's on board, and we're doing all we can to make the family proud of this museum. But as far as the things that are floating around out in the free world, hopefully some new things will pop up. You know, there's a couple of things like the blue leathers from Viva. We'd love to find those. I just got a lead on the Caesar's Palace leathers that we've been working on that for a long time, because I don't believe they were thrown away, and I've got serious proof now that they weren't. And Chris Agajanian and I are working on some really cool stuff, as well as my partners here at Harley-Davidson. But there's some really cool stuff that might be coming up soon. Just stay tuned.
Wow. Has anybody tried to sell you some stuff that wasn't genuine?
No. I mean, it's impossible to. You can tell, I mean, with our knowledge and looking at things. I mean, people ask me that. I'm like, I mean, Henry, you know, it's impossible to sell anything that doesn't match a photograph or that's not the original. As far as helmets,
right,
leathers, all the bikes are accounted for now. We found one of the LSI helmets outside of Austin, ironically, where we're from, and the guy's going to work with us in some level. But the rest of the stuff is just kind of, there's a few things that are just, you know, either they're destroyed or they're gone. Carl Green, before Carl Green passed away, he was, I mean, I miss him so much. He was one of my best friends, and he had so much knowledge. But he told me that when they took the rig back to Butte after Wembley, Evel offered him this in the coach. He offered them this pile of clothing, and on top of that was 3 sets of torn leathers. And one of them was the Wembley leathers. So Carl said, no, at the time he was like, no, I don't want that. So he told me they got thrown in the trash. And that particular 2 sets, I don't know anyone that's even spoken of ever having them, but as far as I know, they were thrown in the trash because Carl told me Evel threw them away. Which is, wow, he was like kicking himself, you know, obviously. I mean, we could talk for 17 hours about this stuff if you guys want. But what else?
Okay.
I'd rather talk about how was this is about Wembley, I suppose, but there's probably not much I can really toss in that's not been discussed. I called up John Hood and was like, you got to get on the horn. I'm sure he blew you guys away.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah, John was awesome.
He was
awesome.
At the premiere. It's so funny at the premiere. Like I had never met John Hood, and I wanted to. And I always I don't call people. I kind of wait till it's in person. But I saw him from 50 yards, and Kelly was standing next to him. Kelly had just run into him, and I beeline straight to him, and I go, John Hood, it's an honor to meet you. He's just the most beautiful man I've ever met. Well, besides Mike Draper. But John Hood is just, he's a king among men. He really is.
That's so awesome.
So well, we're talking about Wembley. I'm sorry.
You're cutting each other off there, man.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I know. A while back, I was down south, and I took some pictures standing by a supposed Evel Knievel bike, and yeah, we talked.
You're not
about
talking about the guy in Ohio, are you?
No, I'm talking. Yeah, I'm talking about the. You've seen the pictures, and it took you forever to get a hold of these people, but it was in fact the Wembley tank, right?
Oh, you're talking about the real deal. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking about the real deal.
Yeah, okay. I think you're talking about that goofball I think the guy I talked to his rep and he got screwed. There was a guy in Ohio that was duped into buying a bike, and he paid over $100,000 for it. And it was just a John Steele replica with a Sedlak replica tank and tail. But he was duped, and I feel bad for him. But anyway, back to, it's a fascinating story, the one you're bringing up. Henry sent me some pictures, and I was like, blah, blah, blah. You had actually visited the place. That was a 2-year acquisition, and part of the reason was the place was closed. A, B, the elderly couple that owned it had gifted the entire collection to their son, Jim Atchley, who turned out to be a great friend. I was leaving, remember, Henry, I was leaving voicemails for like a year and a half. Okay. Yeah, so I left voicemails on this just rotary phone and a tape recorder. So this guy calls me after the first tour we were on, and Jim Atchley says, hey, my mother's in her 80s, and she said, you've called several times, and so I'm calling you back. She said she's left 6 messages over the last year and a half. But anyway, he was claiming to have a Evel Knievel jump bike in his museum, but what he actually had was a Roger Riemann motorcycle purchased from the auction with we can say now, the crash tank and the wheelie tail intact, mounted on a Roger Riemann bike. In the Smoky Mountain Car Museum, of all places, in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Yep. But so the Dale Waxler bought the bike from the Roger Riemann auction after his unfortunate crash and his early departure. It's really a big shame that guy's not around. Dale bought the bike, tank and tail, and put it on that motorcycle, and then sold it to Jim Atchley, who put it in his museum for a hefty price. So basically, I told the guy I wanted to buy the tank and the tail, and he could keep the rest of it. And he said, well, I can't do that because I paid X amount of dollars for this bike as a whole. And, that went on for another 6 months. But the amazing story is Marilyn Stemp and I, my business partner, her and I finally got the deal done. We got a pair of bolt cutters, and we wired the money, and we flew over there, and we went to Dale's. We stayed at Dale's, and then we drove to Pigeon Forge with bolt cutters. And I seriously went in there with tools, and we cut the tank and the tail. We cut the hoses and cut the tank and the tail. Not the tail. We didn't cut the tail, but we disassembled it, packed it in a bag, and left. And he said, well, what are you going to do with the motorcycle? And I was like, well, we'll send somebody for that later. Is that okay? And he's like, okay, fine. So, yeah, we just went in there for that sole purpose of getting those pieces. The same can be said about the 1970 Ironhead XR750 that we recovered, his most valuable Harley-Davidson, his first Harley-Davidson. The tank and the tail were in my friend's attic in Pennsylvania, and the motorcycle was in Canada. And when I ran the serial numbers up there, I was blown away and floored. It had the disco tank and tail on it. And I went immediately and, did the deal for that and put that back together. That's the fascinating portion of this for me is the archaeology and the reassembling of Evel's legacy. I mean, that's the high. That's all I can tell you.
Wow. I'm blown away with all this stuff. Now, how about like with Big Red? I mean, having that truck. I mean, that's got to be pretty wild.
Oh, that was literally probably the hardest hill we've ever climbed. I mean, it was incredible, though. I wouldn't take back 1 second of it. I met Mike Patterson and the guys at Topeka Harley Davidson, which became Historic Harley Davidson. He literally said, "I'll restore a Mack truck," you know. And all the beautiful thing about Kansas, I had not spent a lot of time here. Most of his crew is from here, and it's just ironic. You got Carl Green, you got Mike Draper down the street, Lee Ratliff, who lives in Rhode Island now, Hugo's Harley Davidson. All these guys met and kind of got together at the Hutchinson Jump at the Kansas State Fair. Mike Draper got hired. I'm sure he told you all this stuff, but the Kansas connection is insane. People come into the dealership all the time, and they're like, "Hey, I was there," and they bring in a flyer, or they bring in a poster or something. But the truck, the truck restoration was just, I would say, you want to talk about impossible. It was near impossible, but when you got a tight group of 92 people that actually restored that truck, there was 92 people. I mean, you're talking painters. Shit. Yeah, one guy had, you know, there was teams all over the state just working on this thing daily, and I was the maestro going, okay, we need this and the perfection and the thing, and I mean, I spent 3 months just on the graphics of getting the vectors made off of photographs to match the truck. There's no logos that were existing. People have no idea. I mean, some people do, but you really need to understand the task at hand. It was so extensive. I mean, just the vectors on like the logos that were painted on that rig took 6 months. It was because there was nothing. It was all from photographs, blurry photographs, I might add. But I mean, 92 people got that truck done. 92 people, and it was in pieces all over town, and they were just going after it every day. And we set a deadline, and we got our goal. My goal personally, which I probably shouldn't have imposed on everybody, was that thing has got to lead the parade at Evel Knievel Days, and we pulled it off. And it was a pretty proud year last year. It almost killed us, but survived.
Yeah, you had a big year last year.
I heard 2 questions.
Go ahead,
I was going to say it was mind-blowing to me, like the state that it was in when you guys first started the whole process with the truck.
Yeah, it was pretty bad, but the good news, it was good and bad. The chassis was solid. The sheet metal was. I wanted to originally keep the sheet metal on, but it's to the point where, okay, if you're going to restore a rivet or you're going to do that, you have to go all the way. You can't half-ass it. And I learned that from Mike Patterson too. Mike, when you restore a motorcycle, you're going to leave this part patina and this part new. You can't really do that. It's either the bike comes to you cool enough in patina, like the Ironhead did, or like per se the when we got the American Eagle. I looked for that bike for 3 years straight, and I finally found it, and it was horrible. But unfortunately, the tank had been stripped and repainted. So it's one of those things where the tank is blue, but the seat cover's destroyed, but it's still there, and that kind of thing. So you have to go all the way with it, or not at all. Where you're fortunate enough to have something in decent condition, but the truck was. I wanted to keep this, and then initially we were going to put an automatic garbage truck Mack motor in it. So the original plan was to drive the truck across the country, which was, of course, my harebrained idea because I'm out of my mind. And driving a Evel's truck around the country after you restore it is kind of foolish. There's so much work that goes into it. So we just went all the way. and we kept the original motor, restored it ground up. Kansas Powertrain restored the motor and the chassis. I mean, it was literally 92 people. I can't thank them all, but I mean, it was just bananas. We were going after it 24 hours a day for 2 years straight.
Wow.
And it took 2 years to get the truck. I mean, the games around getting the truck, you don't even want to hear those. I mean, it's
yes, we do.
Literally, this has been a circus. It's a circus, dude.
Oh, boy. So go ahead, Henry. I cut you off. Your turn.
When you say we don't want to hear that stuff, yes, we do. What do you got cooking hot right now? I mean, you got the museum going on. You got the Evil Ale going on. What's next? You got Doug Danger going.
Well, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. I'm supposed to retire in a week, but I guess I'm not going to. Doug's announcing a jump we were going to do the jump this year, but we just kind of wanted to do it right, and we ran out of time. And so Doug's flying down to Rot Rally next week, where he did the first 15-car jump on Evil's bike. We're going to announce a world record jump in front of the state capitol in my hometown of Austin, which is really difficult to get. Robbie Knievel jumped in 2000, I think it was 8. Is that right, Henry? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Something like that. And it's really hard to get the permits. It's really tricky. So I met with the Rot Rally's been incredible. We met with the senator who used to be the mayor, Kirk Watson, and he's a motorcycle guy, and he rides in the parade every year. He's like, I'm on board. The mayor's on board. So, I mean, literally, like, you have to move. This is in front of the state capitol, and Austin's a very busy town. So they charge you $1,000 just to lift us, per stoplight to lift and turn a light, things of that nature. It's a very extensive operation to get a jump and permits, and you have to hire police, and it's just bananas. So we've got all that done, and we want to do it right. So, yeah, we're going to announce Doug's jump next year in front of the Capitol. I came up with something pretty interesting that's never been done, and we'll announce it later. But it's going to be pretty cool. So that's what we're going to Austin for. Other than that, the movies, I'm really proud of the films that we did the last couple of years. We did 3. We just finished Robbie's film. It's called Chasing Evil, and I was one of the executive producers on that. And I'm just so proud to work with Jesse James Miller and all the guys. It's turned out to be such a human condition story. It's more than a Daredevil. It's really incredible. I can't tell you too much, but I can't wait for you guys to see it. I know, Henry, you love Robbie, and you can't wait to see it as well. But Being Evil was insane. Just working with Knoxville and Daniel Youngie and all the producers and putting all that rare footage in those films where it belonged. And I Am Evel Knievel prior to that with Derek Murray. It was an honor to be in that film and provide a lot of rare content. I mean, I don't know, Henry, you know what's up. It's just been a ride, and we're all doing it with passion. It's all passion, and it all happened synchronistically, I think. And yeah, the beer.
I think you're right.
Evil Ale. What can I say? We got the beer is going to be in every state in the country coming up, but it's selling like flapjacks down in Austin, Texas. So
yeah. So where can we get Evil Ale at?
Yeah, that's the big problem. It's illegal to ship it, and I've been shipping it everywhere, so I'm probably going to end up in the slammer pretty soon. The issue is there's no real issue. It's just state-by-state distribution. So we're doing Kansas now with Kelly, and it's just going to be kind of one of those things where we agent it out with Kelly, and we do state-by-state and license it. But it's got a really great fresh start in Austin, where I'm from, and I thought that was a really good place. I met with several breweries that were doing really well, but South Austin Brewery struck me as the right way to go because they were like the first thing out of the brewmaster's mouth to me, like 2 days after meeting with him, he goes, "Honestly, dude, I don't care if we get rid of all our beers and just have 5 kinds of Evil beer." And I was like, I think you guys are the right choice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they just get it, Martin Buffler and Russ, the brewmaster, they're just incredible. So, now, I don't know, what else are we doing?
I was gonna say the beer. Is it more of a classic beer taste, or is it like because there's like so many different flavors and goofy things out with beer nowadays, and it drives me nuts.
Yeah,
I'm just an old beer head.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with you. The thing, it's a craft beer. The first one is a craft beer. We have 2 other beers in the works. One is the title I came up with, and I thought everyone was going to hate it, but it's I don't know, Lesser Evil. Everybody seems to like so. So you've got this craft beer that is pricey, and it's distributed by the biggest craft beer distributor. But so everybody, the next step is the light stuff and the pale ale. There's something in the works of the I came up with an 18-wheeler pack, which is 18-pack, and it looks like the semi, big red, and you open the doors in the back, and the beer falls out of the truck.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff in the works. I don't know if I'm gonna get in trouble for any of this, but I'm just trying to be honest here. Yeah. So there's the sky's the limit with Evil anything. I mean, it really is. It's just a fascinating, all-American brand.
Any chance you're going to repop the toys everybody loves so much?
Oh man, that's a question for Kelly. I mean, he's working on a lot of stuff too. It's just when the major motion picture gets produced too, which there's a lot of circulation on that. I think that's what's going to take things to the global level again. And that's a question for Kelly as well. You should call Kelly right now. He's probably, I don't know if he's asleep, but the major motion picture is probably going to launch things into another stratosphere. But there's a lot of rumor. I don't know. I mean, there was the Channing Tatum rumor, and then I heard he was unavailable, and I still think Matthew McConaughey should do it. He's absolutely. He's still Evil. When Evil was 36, he looked 46. Matthew's about 46 or 7, and he looks 37. So let's just reverse the math there and get it done.
Totally do it. It'd be great.
Yeah, he's the guy. He's just everything. Crystal and I were talking about his hair. Like his hair's even patterned the same way,
Yep.
And he was a great friend of Evil's too. And he's just a passionate guy. So I think he's the right guy to do it.
When I met Evil, I met him too.
Did I mention James Bakelich is catching 10 mahi-mahi a day down in Lighthouse Point, Florida? If you guys could see him right now sitting in his chair in his garage, he's pulling his hair out. He's laughing so hard.
Oh, that's funny.
Anyway,
did you ever get a chance to meet Evil?
No, I never met him. I was doing my thing. I was I don't know. I wasn't in the ball game then. I was nowhere near it. I've been exactly 4 years now is my tenure. I got my bug 4 years ago, and this is where we're at 4 years later with the collection, the museum, and the beer, and the movies, and the psychosis, and the problems, and the dandruff, and the whole thing.
Well, that's the one thing I can hold over your head, man. I got the meetings.
I wish I got to shake his hand one time, but I feel like I'm shaking it now posthumously. I really feel like I'm doing, it's meeting him after the fact, but I feel good about it because I have my own idea of who he is and what he was based upon the people that were closest to him that I really respect. But I'm so close with his family, that means more to me than any of this stuff. I mean, they've had my back through this whole thing. Alicia, awesome. Matt, Crystal especially. I mean, it's magical, man. Bill Rundle, the whole gang. Anybody, Scott Wiley, all the guys, Robbie Hull, Henry, Mike Patterson. You can't say enough. It's just endless. Everybody loves Evel Knievel, and it's not just about him. It's about what his message was. The message is, be a kid and do something. Don't sit on your ass. And what did he call people? What did he call them, Henry? People that sit at bars are hemorrhoids on the ass of progress.
yeah, that's it.
I mean, just everything out of the guy's mouth is just incredible. I mean, It's more. It's bigger than him. It's about the universal feeling.
Yeah. You know what, Lathan? We talked about this the other day, and in the Evil on Tour book, Evil makes the comment that one day he's going to die, and just to bury him in his truck, and when the world thinks he can do some good, dig him up, and he'll come back. And I was laughing, but I think you've got it. You're doing that. You have absolutely done that. You brought the truck back. You're bringing everything back. The only thing we don't have is Evil himself. But, I mean, damn, he's still around in spirit. And, dude, I couldn't thank you anymore. If you know, I'm just so excited all this stuff's going on. I just love it so much. So thank you.
Oh man, don't thank me. I mean, it's a lot of people. It's a group effort. I guess I'm the weird band leader, but once you get going on this and you've got the right crew. I mean, I couldn't have done this without Robbie Hull and Scott Wiley and Chance Miller and the family and you, and it's supposed to be, and somebody had to do it, I guess. I guess why not me? It's not been easy. It's been the most amazingly difficult hill or mountain I've ever climbed in my life, but I don't regret one single day of it. And I was talking about this the other day with somebody. It's like I feel like we've been through a lot of the things he's been through with business and tasks and getting things done without the jumping. And thank God Doug Danger's jumping the bike instead of me, because I don't know what would happen. And I actually, Henry, I actually considered doing it for a couple of weeks.
I tried desperately to talk you out of it.
Yeah, I know. I just can't. I rode. The day I knew I couldn't do it was when Doug was practicing for the world record jump last summer here at Heartland Park here in Topeka. I was riding the XR on the straightaway. Heartland Park was closed at the time. Now it's reopened. We went to the races last Friday, and it's kicking ass again. But I got to ride. When you ride the XR, which that's another story. Actually, you know what? I failed to mention this. The first bug that I got, again for Evil, was actually from Michael Bowen, who's a brilliant actor friend of mine. You've seen him in Breaking Bad and Kill Bill and all Jackie Brown and all these films. I've known him for years, and he's my dearest friend, and we're just like kinetically connected in a weird way. We can speak without even being in the same state. This guy is an XR building guru. He's known for building XRs. And first time I rode his XR 750, I got this crazy bug. And I was like, wow, and coincidentally, Michael Bowen has the same birthday as Evel Knievel. No bullshit. So when I first rode an XR 750, I was like, this is like riding an out-of-control Bronco that you've got that owns you. It's not like riding a normal motorcycle. And most people have never ridden an XR 750. So that was the first time I correlated XR with Evil, and then it kind of went into doing a little research again. I'm pretty sure that's what caused it. But yeah, so we were riding. Doug had his practice ramp set up out at Heartland Park on the drag strip, and that's a few miles straight. I never get to ride that bike. The problem with that bike is I used to ride it around my neighborhood in Austin with the leathers on. I get pulled over all the time, and they just start looking at me like I was completely 3 sheets to the wind. But you can never ride that bike fast enough because you have to stop at a red light, or you can never really open it up unless you're on a track. So Doug had his ramp set up, and I was like, give me the bike. And I was like, I was going like 80 and back and forth. And I said, I'm just going to jump. The ramps were connected. I'm just going to go up and roll over it and do a little hop over it. And I looked at his ramp, and I was just headed towards it. And I said, there's no way I would even roll up that thing at a slow speed, because I know if you even have to back down, you're going to drop the thing. I mean, it's literally, it's you know what I mean? It's just so scary what he does. He's born to do it. And I was a professional skateboarder. I mean, there's something about the XR 750 and jumping a Harley Davidson that is completely different than anything in the world. And I think there's probably maybe 2 people on the planet that would even attempt it. But Doug's ramps are several feet higher than Evil's ever were. Evil's radius and his angle was always a little lower. So his goal was to go fast, low, and far. You know, he didn't want to go high because of the torque and the impact. Looking at Doug's ramp, I said I will never, ever, ever jump I jumped a curb once, but I'll never jump a ramp like he did off of a ramp, even 2 feet. It's just the most frightening ski slope looking thing in the world, and you're on a 318-pound motorcycle. So no, thank you.
Yeah. Wow. Now, do you know where? I guess it was probably like maybe 10 years ago, or maybe a little longer than that. There was a dealership that made a F-150.
Yeah, the Galpin.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, it was the Galpin Ford. Yeah, the original one is still in Montana. Bill Rundle owned it for a long time, and his buddies got it. It's supposedly going in the museum. But there was a secondary, or I don't know how many they made, but there was a secondary one that some guy in L.A. was trying to sell. But the original one is still within proximity of Bill Rundle and the family. It's up in Montana.
Did I see a blue version? Is that like a Wembley version or no?
I don't think they made one. Brian Richards probably did.
Exactly.
He's got it parked on his driveway right now. He's got it parked at James Bakalich's place down in Lighthouse Point, Florida, with the fish.
Yeah, getting the 10-pound mahi.
Now, how about the helmet, the Wembley helmet that you guys ended up going in hands on?
Oh man, that was really funny. So that helmet. Okay, so Evel gave it to Gifford when he got off the plane back in the States. There's a really interesting story. There was a lot of confusion. There was a rumor. This is what happened. I talked to Doug Wilson, who's the Wild World of Sports executive producer. We worked on the film with him. He's just incredible. So I had heard he's got the Wembley helmet. And then everybody said, oh, Frank Gifford's got the helmet. The truth is, Evel gave Doug Wilson the Canadian National Exposition helmet as a gift, which was prior to Wembley, right? And he just thought it was the same helmet. After the jump, Evel gave Gifford the Wembley helmet. Gifford had it on his shelf. You can see it in a couple of interviews with him. He had it on his shelf for, 25 years at least. The story I heard was his son absconded with it and then sold it to a buddy for like $5 or $10,000, and then his buddy sold it to somebody else, and then it ended up in auction and sold for $24,000. It ended up with this guy, Bryan, this Hawaiian guy. So when I met Brian Richards, initially he was like sending me pictures, and he's like, oh, I was like, where's the Wembley helmet? Because Brian's been doing this since he was born, I think, and I was kind of a newbie at this point. And so this guy in Hawaii had it, and he bought it at the auction, and he was telling everybody he wanted $300,000 or $400,000 for it, and that's the first rumor I heard. So it kind of passed around for a little bit. So I never really had that guy's contact info or anything, and come 3 years ago, Christmas, or right before Christmas, Profiles in History advertises that they're going to put it up for auction. So I'm like, okay, the guy in Hawaii's selling it. And so Robbie Hull and I sign up for the phone auction, and I'm sitting in the parking lot. They actually called me when we were at a restaurant. I went and stood in the parking lot, and I was just like, they're like, okay, we're going to start the bidding at $40,000. And I was like, she goes, do you want to bid? I go, yep. And she says, okay, we're at 45. And I said, okay. And she goes, we're at 50. And I go, how many other bidders are there? She goes, 1. And I was like, really? Okay. 50. And I was like, yep, we're at 50. And I could hear the guy in the background. We're at 55. Do you want to go 60? And I said, yep. And 60. Going once, going twice, sold. And it was literally 20 seconds that it was over. And come to the funny story later is the guy that was bidding against me became a friend. He Yeah. So the funny part is we got it, and I immediately contacted them. I said I'd like to get it immediately. So we usually don't ship everything till January, and I said I don't want to wait that long. So they sent me the paperwork, and it said $72,000 on the invoice. So I was like, what the hell is this? And she's like, well, you didn't read it? It's the buyer's premium. So yeah, there's the buyer's premium tax on the helmet when you buy it, or any item. I'm horrible. I don't read any documents. I cannot stand paperwork. So I didn't read that. So I had to cough up another $12,000. So I called Bryan, and I knew Bryan, it wasn't about the money. It was, I knew it would mean a lot to him to be a partner in the helmet. That's simply how it happened. And I called him up and I said, dude, do you want to be partner on the helmet? And he said, fuck yeah, fuck yeah, mate. So that was how that happened. And Bryan became a partner in the helmet, and we just kind of shipped it back and forth from England, and he would bring it back to Evil Days and meet me there, and we would just hand it off. That's pretty much the story of that.
Oh, that is incredible.
And then if you want to hear the story of the Wembley cast, I don't know. We could go on forever. If you got anything else you want to talk about, but the Wembley cast is a pretty cool story. The one that I've got photos of him wearing it. But well, I was in Vegas, and you always go to the motorcycle auctions in Vegas, not simply just to buy anything, but it's an information super highway of just all the people are there. And that was when I met Dale Waxler, who became a great friend. The guy's brilliant. I mean, he owns Wheels Through Time. It's the most incredible museum. Everything in there runs. He's just the most hardworking, passionate guy on the planet. He walks up to me and goes, hey, you're that guy. Listen. He talks 100 miles an hour. He's like, listen, I got a guy who contacted me that knows a guy that's got some evil shit. And that was it. And he goes, I'm going to call him tomorrow, and then I'm going to give you a number. So I see him the next day. He's like, okay, I got a number for you. This guy's name is such and such, but he's not the guy that has it. You got to call this guy to get to that guy. So I was like, oh, God, this sounds like trouble. So there's some guy in Indiana. So I call the number, and he's like, yeah, this is Sal, and you're this guy, right? Okay, well, this guy wants to make sure it goes to the right guy. And I said, okay, well, what do you want me to do? He's like, but you're this guy. And I said, yeah. So he says, okay, I'm going to call him. So he calls him, and then he calls me back, and then he goes, okay, he said it's okay to give you his number. So then he gives me this other guy's number, and I call him, and he's like, I've got Evil's cast. And I go, from what? And he's like, from Wembley. And I said, really? And the guy sounded really old, but he turned out to be kind of late 60s, but he sounded like he was like 90. And he turned out to be a really good friend. But I said, can you send me some pictures? And he said, sure. I don't know how to text photos. I'll send them to you tomorrow. I'll get my daughter to do it. I just want to make sure that you're the right guy. That we don't want this to end up resold or in the wrong hands. And I said, okay. So he sends me pictures, and I was just like, it's got Frank Gifford's signature on it. It says, next time, faster, longer, safer, pal. It's got Love You Daddy Robbie on it. I mean, it's incredible. And I got photos that match it. But that was how we got that thing. And I had to drive to Indiana and meet this guy in the middle of nowhere and then go to his house for a couple of days. I mean, that's the most interesting, facet of this thing is meeting these incredible people that have stories. I mean, everybody's got an evil story. But especially these guys from the 70s that come out of the woodwork, I love meeting people that are just completely interesting. I think that's part of the deal.
That's great. the stories could go on for days and days.
I got 40 years worth in 4. So.
Now, how about there was one that I was thinking of earlier when I was watching some of the Evil stuff. Evil gave Howard Cosell a jacket. Do you have any idea where that ever ended up, or even know about it?
Which one?
That was at the Texas. That was at Texas when he jumped the semis.
Yeah, on Wide World of Sports, he had given Cosell an Evel Knievel jacket.
Oh yeah, that story's incredible. So, Evel did a short-lived. No, this is insane. This is really cool. I was in Portland, Oregon, and I got a call from a guy. He was trying to sell I've been looking for that puffy jacket because we didn't have any of them, and there was only 3 or 4 or 5 of them, I think. But Henry, you know the Dallas Motorcycle Chemicals Corporation? You know,
yeah,
that rare patch and that rare poster where he's jumping the max.
Yeah.
So there was a guy named Bill and Howard that were the guys that owned. They were partners with Evel on the Motorcycle Chemicals Company, and those two jackets were made for those guys. Evel had those jackets made. So when he comes to do the Dallas jump at Green Valley at the racetrack, how he finds out Howard Cosell's showing up, he reneges and takes the jacket back from the Howard guy from the chemical company and says, I'll get you another one. And he takes Howard's jacket back and gives it to Cosell on national TV and says he had it made for him. I mean, that's the kind of... And so the kid that I bought it from, his girlfriend found it at an estate sale, and the lady at the estate sale told him that story. Like, I don't know where else we could have gotten that story from, because you would think that jacket was made for him. But Bill was his partner, and Bill told his wife that, who told this girl this at the estate sale.
And have you acquired that jacket yet?
Oh, yeah, we've had that jacket for a couple of years now, but
I knew that.
We don't have the Howard one, but we've got Bill's. But
well,
Bill's
the Howard
partner,
one will be in your possession sooner or later.
Yeah, Bill's partner Howard's missing a jacket.
That's awesome.
Because Evel took it right back home.
That's classic. Now the museum, when will that open up?
It's tentatively set for the end of this year. I mean, the building will be done super soon, probably in a month and a half. It's the interior and the design work and the STEM, science, technology, engineering. We're going crazy with it. I mean, it's all about you can have children coming in, field trips. It's the economics of being a Daredevil. We're actually going to rig Doug Danger's helmet up next time he jumps with 9 virtual reality cameras to recreate a jump. So when a kid comes in, you can sit on a bike, have an interactive experience, and I don't know if you've seen these things, but they're pretty remarkable. You feel like you're living this out, and you'll do the jump. It's very educational, and then we're planning on doing a sky cycle one that Evel always dreamt of that Crystal told me about. That's remarkable. It's the interior work that is extensive and arduous and expensive, obviously. That's going to take a little more time, but we're working on it 24 hours a day. We're also going to have Scott Truax on board. He's going to build a model of the steam-powered mechanism, and he's going to come down and do seminars. Each month is going to be a different theme, and then we'll have festivals, and everything's geared. Like, we'll have an Ascot Agajanian month, and we'll have Chris down in the race car. We'll have a month about sky cycles. We'll have a month about the XR 750. The economics of being a daredevil and why not to be a daredevil.
Yeah.
Because you know how it is, Henry. I mean, I've been on the road for a while too. You end up spending most of the time. You end up spending more than you make, but it's not about that, obviously. But Evel would not have been a wealthy man simply from his jumps. He was a wealthy man because of his mind and his skill and his self-promotion and his toy deals. And, that was what made him astronomically wealthy. It was not just simply jumping the bike. He had to jump the bike to get to the next level of getting all of those endorsements, and he was a genius at it.
That's awesome.
I couldn't agree anymore. And the only thing I got left to say about that is, yeah, you're absolutely right. You don't, the Daredevil.
You do it because you love it, man.
You do it because you love it, and you have the times where, you make pretty good money, and then you have times where you don't, and usually the times you don't outweigh the times you do.
Yeah.
I can honestly say now, like, I was going to say, I can honestly say, like, I never in my life wanted to go to Kansas until now.
Yeah, you know what? I honestly, where I'm from, being Austin, Texas, Los Angeles, and traveled. I'd figured out I'd been to every city and every state now, and it's kind of like everywhere I go, it's Groundhog Day. You know, when you go to the airport and you're like, when was I here last? And it kind of flashes through your mind. You know what I'm talking about? Do you guys ever experience like, oh, I'm here again. When was the last time I was here? Kansas was never really on that radar for me. I love it here because we are in the dead center of the United States, although it be Tornado Alley currently, the last 24 hours. But it's in the center of the United States, and most of his crew's from here. There's the greatest people in the world. It's the perfect place for the museum. It's a day's drive from, worst case scenario, 24 hours, but it's a day's drive from anywhere in the United States. If you're at one side of the country or the other, it becomes a task. You only get certain people. We've got the government and the city behind us with billboards that are going to be placed all across the nation. I'm just really proud of where it's at and the people. It's especially about the people here. I've never met more genuine people in my entire life. They keep their word. There's no bullshit. They got your back. I mean, what else can you ask for? You can't ask for anything else than that.
That's awesome.
So come on down to Kansas and have some Toto.
Some evil ale.
And some
evil ale on its way.
Nice. Very cool. Cool. Well, do you guys want? I don't want to wrap it up. Should we wrap it up?
Hey man, I'll go as long as you want.
I don't think I've ever spoken this much in my entire life. So we could talk about my buddy at Lighthouse Point, Florida. He's a great fisherman. He caught 10 mahi today. No, well, you know what? Let me tie a story together for you. The last suit that we got was a year and a half in the works. It was actually a beautiful donation. It was, Henry, you've seen it. It's the red, white, and blue race suit.
Yep.
Okay. So that this beautiful woman Debbie and her friends, my friend James, who I met at Buffalo Chip with Woody. After I met him a month later, he was down in Florida, and he texted me a picture of this suit, and I always wondered where the suit was. And he goes, "Look what I found, buddy." And I'm like, what, how? And he's like, well, my buddy knows this person, and they played golf with Evel in the 80s, and they have this suit. And I was like, that's how the connectivity is, So I just was recently down there with James. We were going down there to meet with them to get the suit for the museum a couple months ago, and he took me out fishing on his boat, and we caught 10 blackfin tuna. And he was calling me before the podcast, and I said, listen, he's like, what are you doing? I said, we're going to do a podcast. And he's like, I just caught 10 mahi-mahi. I said, all right, I'm going to tell everybody about your fish. So yeah, James is not only a fisherman, but he's a beautiful human being, and he actually was the conducive party of us getting that suit a couple months ago. So it's not totally non-EK related. James is in there. He's part of the game.
It all ties into EK.
I have a question for you real quick. You're talking about fish. Do you got any actual, I know you don't have the shark jump leathers, do you?
No, the shark jump leathers were owned by Jeff Lowe, and he sold them to this guy who, this is what I heard, there's no definite proof, they were cut up into pieces and put into these trading cards.
Oh.
But I've never seen, and I had another guy out of Vegas trying to buy something off my friend to do the same thing with memorabilia, cutting it up. I've never seen a piece of it for sale, so I don't think it happened. But they sold on eBay for $5,000 about 5 or 6 years ago. And a couple of my friends, right before I got into finding things. So yeah, so I think Scott Wiley told me he saw them on eBay for $5,000. They were sliced down the side just like the others. But I'd never seen the pieces, so I'm assuming they're still around somewhere.
The sickening part about what you just said is
very sickening.
I heard the same story as what a company had planned for Big Red. Is that true?
That's a true story. Well, I mean, I heard that story. Jeff, it's probably the same guy, because it was. I think Jeff told me that story as well, a long time ago. I mean, I just think that's just basically sick, but hopefully that doesn't ever happen.
Now, do you sit and do an eBay search every day just to see if there's anything new on there?
No, not at all. I actually, in the beginning I did, but here's the beautiful math of it. I don't have the time to do it, but I have so many friends in our network that, I mean, seriously, daily I get a text. Look at this on eBay. Those little links, and you're just like, oh God, But usually it's a good deal. There's rarely anything on there anymore that's super significant. I think I've noticed lately, but it was the only trading place. I mean, Bob Cook will tell you. Bob Cook had a beautiful collection, and the stories from him and my pal, he would like to remain anonymous, but I got to say his name because I love him to pieces, is Bryan Hendricks. They would find evil stuff in the Toy Trader magazines. Can you imagine how long that took? I mean, wow, that's part of it. This guy, one of my friends, collected for 25 years through, basically classified ads. I would not have the patience for that. I'm like, the last 4 years we've gotten where we are, but I want it. Well, we need to find it now. We need to get it now.
Right.
We're finding that. Let's find something on the way and get something on the way back. So, yeah, I can't imagine that. Bob told me stories about Toy Trader, and I'm like, holy shit. It's like mail order bride situation.
Did you buy the Lathan? Did you buy the XR that Bob had, or is he loaning it? What's the deal with that?
I bought Bob his XR. I don't know, it's probably 3 years ago now, and we just changed some stuff on it. Yeah, and Sedlak did the tank and the tail, and we bought his replica Sky Cycle, which we're gonna do some really cool stuff with. But Bob was the pioneer of this whole thing, in my opinion. Bob, and secretly Bryan Hendricks too, and they knew each other. This guy Gerald Scheffler in Florida. There was a few guys, and Scott England. I mean, I never met him in person, but I've talked to him a bunch of times. There was a few guys that had been doing this for a long time, and the ways they had to go about collecting in the 80s and 90s. Luckily, we just have a better outlet for it now, because I like to do things really fast, certain things, and luckily we were able to not confiscate, but meet incredible people. And a lot of the beautiful things that we got of Evil's came from trusting friends that were by his side throughout his career. The Castine family, who became family. All these people have become family. They knew it was going eventually to the right place, and they were a little gun shy at first because of, if you can watch this TV thing we did, Crystal and I did yesterday, 5 museums over the last 30 years have been attempted with, and Evil tried so hard. I have so many documents from Butte, from Florida, from Prim, from all over. There's 2 in Vegas. There was 5 museums total that tried to get completely off the ground, and they got close, but it never came to fruition. So we're just really proud of the fact that we're going to be, actually pulling this off. And it took a team of really passionate people.
I was going to say, right now on eBay, going back to eBay again, there's somebody in Australia that's got original Sky Cycle plans. And then there's another person here.
Yeah, see, we've got tons of those. There's Scott Truax gave me several of the. We've got tons of those, and then the ramps and the whole thing. There's just a couple of separate ones, and they want the moon for them. But right. there's a point where you have so much stuff, you just get kind of standoffish about it. There's always going to be something. Trust me, there's always going to be something popping up. But we've got better plans than the one you're seeing on eBay. Is basically what I'm saying. That are very similar.
Very good, very good. This has been friggin' awesome. We got to definitely. We're already said we're definitely doing this again. You got to come back on.
Yeah, I'd like to round up some other cool dudes for you guys to talk to as well, you're into it.
I don't think we would let you do that.
No, but after I spoke to you last week, I called John. I just like John Wembley, John Hood. John Hood is so awesome. I just called him up. You remember Henry? He's like two minutes later. I called you back. John Hood's on board.
Yep.
John Hood's the man, and Mike Draper's the man.
Actually, you know what? Draper's still on the line. He's been holding on, listening to the whole thing. Let's bring him back on. Mike, you still there?
Oh, it was kind of a boring there for a little while. I was starting to fall asleep.
Well, Mike's driving up the turnpike.
Just kidding, Lathan. Just kidding.
They're making me talk. Just pull the cord. Where are you at, Mike? Are you on the interstate or the expressway?
I'm in the big city of Wichita, Kansas.
You're sitting in your car. I can tell.
Yep. Putting some fresh water in the car.
Oh, that's so funny.
So, Mike, what do you think? Was I right?
I was going to say, Mike, did you learn things tonight?
Did I do what?
Did you learn things tonight that you didn't know?
Oh, big time. Big time. I mean, and listen to John Hood and everything. I mean, when you start putting all the stuff together, there's lots of, I mean, I'm just amazed when I was talking to Ray Gunn of all the stuff that goes together, and then talking to Earl Castine. I mean, it just all comes together.
Wow. That's a guy I should call, and Mike and I can call up. He's incredible. Ray Gunn, you should do an earlier era show. Ray's completely fascinating. He's incredible.
Well, he can tell you the times that they were really hard up for money and doing stuff, and Evil, would borrow money from Ray and stuff.
Mike, I was going to ask you, were you with Evil when he came out to like the Philadelphia area and jumped?
Mike, you've been asked a question.
Oh! I thought he said Lathan. I thought in Philadelphia.
No.
There was another guy that done there. His name's Larry Monroe and stuff. Him and his wife used to travel around, and we could never get him to kind of give us some video because he had his wife go across the street, and at that time the Sears store sold some of those not video cameras but the Super 8s, and she has got lots of footage but it's just kind of hard to see if we can't get them to break loose with that.
Wow.
Because he did have they got a video,
on YouTube from Spectrum. There's like a video clip, like a couple minutes, like 2-minute, 3-minute long clip. I think it's from '71 from the Philadelphia Spectrum.
That could be us. We got is Butch Wilhelm in that one?
Gotta love Butch Wilhelm.
Yeah, when
he's all over the place.
Jumped everything. He jumped on a little Harley Schwartzer, jumped over all the trucks, Tonka trucks.
Butch is not still around, is he? He's passed, isn't he, or is he still around?
I'm sure he probably has, but I haven't heard anything or seen anything on him.
I think I read something somewhere that he passed, but I can't swear to it. What was that deal Evil had with I dare not say the M word, so we'll just say having a little person jump a mini bike. He just thought that was funnier than hell because I even noticed it in the George Hamilton movie. He had a little person around him. Was that supposed to be Butch?
It could have been Butch and everything. Butch traveled with us for a little while, and it was just really hard on because he had him. Butch just wanted to really please Evil about doing this, but Harley Davidson made a little mini bike called her Schwartzer, and it had pogo sticks for front end on it, and Lee Ratliff built the ramp for him, and we put Tonka trucks on it, and he would have Butch come out and do that, and Butch would go across there and like bouncing a basketball out of control, and then sometimes he'd hang on to it, but the majority of the time he'd just crash. And, it just, I don't know what it's about. I guess it's like, really got the crowd going, I guess. But Butch would always try to please him about jumping stuff.
What were some of the, craziest, did people do crazy things to try to meet Evel?
Yeah, he would, like we stayed at the Sheraton Universal, they were always trying to, try to do something, come up on the floor there, or, just come up and start knocking on his door, and he'd call and say, Mike, open your door and see who that is at my door. He said, I don't know who they are. So, but it was always something. Somebody was trying to come into a restaurant and meet him or something, and he's pretty gracious a lot, but a lot of people come up and really got to be, I can see how celebrities get a little tired of that. I mean, they just come up and interrupt whatever you're doing, and you could be having dinner with something, and they just totally start interrupting you and got in the middle of it, and he would definitely tell you if you were interrupting, he'd get pretty intense.
How about the fight with the Hells Angels? Were you there for that?
No, that was Gene Sullivan and Lee Ratliff was at that one. That was before I got hired, and that was quite a escapade you could see on that video. I mean, it kind of looks like glad he had the crowd on his side.
Yeah, right. Wow. So, anything else you guys want to throw out there, or?
I'm gonna go fishing with my buddy in Lighthouse Point, Florida now.
How many fish did he actually catch?
10.
Okay.
No,
and what kind were they?
Blackfin tuna and dolphin fish, mahi-mahi. He actually just tried to call me, and I'm like, dude, I just spoke about you 3 times. Isn't that enough?
No,
that's funny.
Henry, thanks.
The maximum.
I had a good time with you guys.
Oh, my pleasure, man.
Thank you,
Thanks for coming on.
Set up the pre-70s Evel show, and we'll get Ray Gunn on and scare up a couple other guys.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Just go era by era, and we'll get it done.
Sounds good.
I say jump by jump, and we'll drag it out.
Oh, boy.
And then your friend can really hear about his fishing exploits.
All right, man. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you, Lathan.
Thanks again, man.
Okay, take care.
All right. Wow. And here we are. Yeah, Mike's still here.
Yeah, you guys, I think Lathan was the last guy, wasn't it? Was he your last interview? Oh, okay.
Yep.
Actually, you are Mike, right now.
Yep. Mike, did you ever get to? Did you ever try on Evel's leathers?
I was a little heavier set than what Evel was, so I didn't get to do that. Lee was a lot skinnier. He kind of like what Lathan was. He tried it on, but I can tell you that we tried on Evel's chinchilla coat he had, and it just didn't do quite for me what it does for Evel. That's just a little different.
Yeah, he did have a hell of a fashion sense.
Well, he had the Flying Nun shirts on, with the big collars, and he just had that charisma about him. He looked good in that stuff. When he came out on Johnny Carson's show that time and flipped that coat over and put it on the floor and stuff, and just had a flair about him about doing that.
I think I remember somebody asking him about his fashion sense, and then he said, "Well, what do you expect? I was from Butte, Montana. The only thing I had for fashion sense was a pimp with a shiny pair of shoes and what was it, 49 Mercury?"
Yep. Yep.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. This has been great, man.
Mike, I have had a blast doing this. I got to tell you, me and Barry have talked about this for 3 weeks now, getting all this together.
Actually, over a year. We've been talking about doing this for over a year now. We finally pulled it off.
This has turned out way better than I ever thought, and I was expecting a lot. And dude, I can't wait to meet you because we talk so much online, and all these evil guys are so great. And I just want to say thank you for coming on here and doing this, and I want to do it again.
Well, thanks for the invite and stuff, and still got some more stories. Got Filthy McNasty stories, club out there in Los Angeles, and just a whole bunch of stuff. So we'll just have to tune in next week or something.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna sit down. I think we're gonna do like what Henry said. I think we should do like jump by jump. I'm gonna have to map out all the big jumps and start putting some more shows together.
Well, we'll have to talk into Ray Gunn and see what we can do with him, and see if we can talk to Leroy a little bit more and see if we can't get him out of being recluse and stuff.
Yeah, he's cool. I talked to him on the internet.
Yep.
And Lee, yeah.
So,
yep. So, cool. Mike, again, thank you so much. Thanks for hanging out the whole time, too.
Well, it's always kind of neat to hear all them other stories and stuff, and some stuff that you don't hear. You go, wow, yeah, that's... And like I said, how all that stuff come together, and the only one that can do that is Lathan. So,
yeah,
it was great to listen to and how all that stuff come together.
That's cool. Nice. Cool. All right. So, I'm going to sit down over the weekend and put some things together and line up the next one. Maybe we'll do another one. Definitely. Well, definitely we got to do the Canyon one, but maybe I'll see if there's any over the summer. Put it for the next one together.
Okay. Well, did you say you should? They will stream this, or you'll have a streaming place so we can do them again, or listen to them?
I'm going to put it all up onto a link on YouTube, and I'm going to send the link out to everybody.
Oh, okay. That'd be great.
With a little evil slideshow from Wembley.
That sounds good.
All right. Mike, thanks so much again, and talk to you soon.
Okay. We'll talk to you later.
Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Henry. Bye.
You're welcome. Have a good weekend, buddy.
Okay.
Wow,
buddy.
Well, there you go.
I think we hit it out of the park, don't you?
Absolutely. And you know what the scary part is? The last we technically went off air almost an hour ago at 11 o'clock, but all this is the tape. So people haven't even heard all this stuff. The only one that heard it was Draper. So since he was on the phone, otherwise nobody's heard it. So.
Well,
people, when
you got to give them
link out.
This is the director's cut, right?
Yeah. They're going to get the full cut now tomorrow. A lot of people miss all the good Lathan stories.
That's fucking awesome.
This is great. I don't want it to end.
Are you pleased?
I'm fucking ecstatic. I really am. I don't want it to end. I want to go drink some wild turkey. I don't even like that stuff.
Dude, a bunch of those fucking British people been text messaging me because I said I sucked and I don't like the way I sound. I was talking about Bryan's accent and all that, and they said, "Oh, mate, no, you're great." They said, Bryan's a wanker. Good. You're great.
Well, you know what, too? With Bryan's interview, I have the full one. I'm going to play the full one, too. I'm going to do a whole separate thing for him as well. And, because actually we're next week June 2nd is going to be the last Totally Driven Radio until after 4th of July. We're taking a month off, and so I'm going to have some tape shows. I'm still going to be taping interviews, just no live shows. So I'm going to be playing.
We gave you a lot of fucking filler tonight, buddy.
Yeah, boy. Yeah, boy. Now I have to go.
Well,
I got to look at the dates and see all of Evil's jumps.
Dude, I worked 13 and a half hours today. Got home, hopped in the shower, and I climbed back into my Jeep so I'd make sure it was quiet because them fucking girls in there, they'd never be quiet. So I'm just sitting out here with the breeze blowing, nice and quiet, as peaceful as can be, listening to all this shit with a big smile on my face.
You've been sitting out in your car the whole time doing this?
Oh, yeah, it's quiet, and I got the windows down. It's like 82 degrees. The breeze is blowing. That's fucking great.
Look at you. Like a king.
Dude, I don't have much money. I'm not a rich person, but I am a king. My wife treats me like a king.
There you go.
I live a great life, and you know, I've said many times that if God come on the earth today and give me the choice of who I want to be, I'd want to be me. Yep,
she's on that stuff.
John, yeah, I know. Dude, I have a question for you, if you don't mind me asking.
Shoot.
How in the hell, your wife's your booker, right?
For what, the guest?
Yeah.
Not really. She was for a little while, but it's like 99% me.
Oh, yeah? How the hell do you guys get such big names?
Practice. And that's really it, practice. Making a lot of contacts.
I am totally impressed about the quality of guests. I'm serious. I listen, I drive truck all day long. I listen to all kinds of podcasts. And there's nobody that pulls in a more diverse and more higher-end bunch of guests than you guys. And, the fucked up thing about that is you put on a good show, and without, blowing my own horn too much, I think we did probably the best show I ever heard.
It was a great fucking show tonight.
It's fucking fantastic, man. I'm sitting here with wood. I gotta walk in the house and do some bad things to the wife because I got too much wood.
Look out, Stacy! Here he comes.
Yeah, she told me to tell you hi, by the way.
That's funny. Now the funny part is when people listen to this and hear this tomorrow.
Hey, whatever. I'm open book.
Whatever. Too funny.
You you let me know when you want to do another one, and we'll. By the way, you're not really putting that on, right?
It's on. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, right.
Come, dude. This is all like taped. This is all going to be right. Boom.
You're not going to edit nothing.
I mean, if you want me to edit it out, I will.
I edit out the kid part. The rest of it, I don't give a shit.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
No, I can do that.
We just, trust me. I got a lot of, you know the deal. There's people who want to make trouble where there's no trouble.
I know.
But hey, man, I'll get off here and let you do your thing.
My thing's going to be going to bed, and I'm sure yours is too.
Yeah, well, I'm on vacation, so I'm good to go.
Are you really? Good to go.
Yeah. What the hell? The way we went, I thought we'd